This video was created during the 2023 WGA and SAG strikes. Without the labor of the writers and actors currently on strike, Ahsoka wouldn't exist. Learn more about the strike at the link in the description.
Mollie, no, it's 6:04. I hit
I'm
live
sorry.
at 6:04. Oh, we were so close.
I was here at 6:03. That's all that matters.
You were here at like 6:03 and 55 seconds. That's how I remember it.
That's how I live my life. 6:03 and 55.
I guess you're right. It counts. I should have been ready to hit go live immediately.
I had to make sure I had all my spooky lights on.
That's true. It looks
for
great.
This very spooky stream.
Well, we're going to talk about episode 5 of Ahsoka, Shadow Warrior. We are not alone this week. We have the View crew with us. Right now we have Jake. Welcome, Jake.
Hello. Thank you guys for having me.
And Brian should be joining us shortly. Also, as my voice cracked, I'm a little under the weather today, and I have been for a couple days. So bear with me as my voice sounds different, and I might be sneezing and stuff. But I'll try to mute myself. You'll hear it in Mollie's microphone.
Jill is with us in spirit. She's at Disneyland with her mom.
Oh, okay.
So we know
see
where her priorities. Just saying.
She is watching it at Disneyland, though. So.
Oh, really?
She did say that she would have the first bit on. So hi, Jill.
That's cool. And she can see Hera and Ahsoka live at Galaxy's Edge, I assume.
Oh my God, I'd be so jealous if she did.
Well, let's dive into discussion here. Jake, I know you're a big old fan of Ahsoka, so how have you been enjoying the series so far?
I've been enjoying it so much. It might be a biased feeling towards it all, but it really has been like a fever dream seeing all this stuff kind of unfold. I think that it's also just very tight when it comes to the story. I talked about it before the show started, is I really wanted kind of a central line between everything, because the previous shows have kind of jumped around a little bit, an episode here, a story there, and it's very much just cut and dry, exactly what we expected it to be. And I think they've done a very good job of catching everybody up who didn't know, but also paying homage to the people who have been committed for this long, as regarding the the Rebels characters and that type of stuff. It's visually beautiful. I love it. I just love the pacing of everything, and yeah, I've been enjoying it a lot. Like, I've said it before, and I'll say it now. It's my favorite Disney Plus Star Wars show, hands down. Like, no question.
Now, did you grow up with the Clone Wars and Ahsoka? Was she like your Jedi when you were coming up?
Yeah, I attached to Ahsoka very quickly. I don't know. I don't have an exact time frame, but she's just always been, when it comes to the animation stuff, she's the number one, hands down, my favorite thing that's come from it. And over the years, it's progressively gotten, okay, now she's top 5, now she's top 3, now she's arguably my favorite Star Wars character ever. I just love the story that they've created around her in such a long period of time. So yeah, seeing everything kind of unfold is pretty incredible.
Have you been watching it with Gabby at all?
We watched the first 2 together.
And has she seen Rebels and the Clone Wars and all that?
She has not seen either Rebels or Clone Wars. And she said after watching the first 2 that she had no problem understanding. She's typically one that kind of asks questions as we watch, which is why we watch things at home a lot. But she understood right away. She just asked questions to confirm, like, okay, that character is this character, or we're connected here, or we saw this person there. She hasn't watched the last 3 because, for those watching, she is 9 months pregnant. So it's hard for her to stay up and watch that type of stuff. But for the first 2, she did enjoy them. She was caught up. She didn't get confused, which is enjoyable for me, because 1, it's Star Wars, 2, it's Ahsoka, and 3, we get to watch something together. So, yeah, everything on her end has been good.
That's great. That's kind of the big thing for us, is we're in too deep, and I don't know when a show is going too deep for casual viewers or whatnot, and it seems like it's a tough thing to balance, doing enough new stuff but also filling in new fans.
I'm curious her reaction to something like The World Between Worlds. I feel like that might be where it starts to kind of may not cross the line, but just tempt the line a little bit. But I'll report back when she does.
Well,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I wanted to make sure we got Jake on here before his baby comes and ruins it for us all.
He's gonna go running out in the middle of this stream, and
hopefully not. Let's hopefully not. I mean, it's always a possibility. She's that close, but
Yeah.
Gabby, don't ruin this for me.
Hold it in.
And we kind of guessed because we knew this was a Filoni episode, and everyone was like, "This is going to be the big one where a lot of stuff happens." So it worked out.
I appreciated it. We had talked about a previous episode beforehand, then one Mollie Damon mentioned, "Well, 5 is this one." I was like, "Sign me up! I'm up. I'm ready."
I was like, we got to get Jake on as early as we can before the due date. But then I was looking at the episodes and which ones were directed by you know who, and I was like, all right, 5 it is.
So what was your reaction to part 5?
Oh shit! A lot of it's a blur. From my initial reaction, I just watched it about an hour and a half ago again, just to kind of re-up myself. I don't know the last time I had a reaction to watching something Star Wars like that. And I know that it's not perfect to a lot of people. And a lot of people would argue that this is the reason why it may not be perfect. But for those who have been connected to it for so long, for something like the Clone Wars, something like Rebels, understanding the bits and pieces as to what's going on, it really is mind-blowing witnessing that type of stuff come to life. The world between worlds, the Inception style memory thing that we're getting with Anakin and going back into the Clone Wars and going back to the Siege of Mandalore. I was just sitting there like in awe. We did a reaction on POV and it's up for the patrons. My hands were just on my face for like 10 straight minutes. Just I could not believe just how they were able to bring it to life. And we have been theorizing obviously for so long about flashbacks. Oh my God, we're gonna see Anakin and Obi and all this stuff. And as much as I wanted to see that, I am so thankful we got it the way we did. Connecting it to something like the world between worlds is something I never thought of, but is a pure brilliant move by Filoni and company to be able to kind of just weave the line between all of these things that are happening without overstepping. And you mentioned it today in your video, Alex, but Hayden Christensen's like, it's prime Revenge of the Sith. Like he stepped in like it was 2005. Like it's unbelievable how he just rekindled everything from that time era.
It's been 18 years, and I believe that he can still fight exactly the same way. And I still have a lot of feelings about just de-aging technology and deep faking in general, but I'm like, that looks so good. That's
the moment
really did.
It was the spinning of the saber where he spins it around his back. I lost it. Lost it.
I was like, oh, there's the Anakin move. He's in it. He's ready. Because you see all those videos of like during the prequel era or during the filming of the prequels of him training. And he's like having so much fun doing all the lightsaber choreography. So you know he was psyched to get back into that. And to be able to put on the live action armor from the Clone Wars, I'm sure like was really cool for him too.
I don't know what it is about that armor, but I've just been so hyped to see it. We kind of were wondering if we'd get Clone Wars flashbacks for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we might see it then. That didn't happen, so getting to see it now was a big relief for me. But I'm surprised at how much I was excited about his hair. I'm like, oh, he's got the haircut too, and it translated pretty well.
Yeah, he looked good.
Looked good, sounded good.
I think that's a big part of it, right? Is the voice, because there's not an age difference when it comes to someone like James Earl Jones, right? Where the voice very much ages. There's a much smaller gap because he was so young, but he channeled that Anakin so well. And I will say, even though it's a spiritual Anakin, it was so fun seeing him channel the Clone Wars Anakin.
Yeah.
Right? Because it was a voice. Matt Lanter did the voice for him, and I'm sure Hayden Christensen was involved in some capacity regarding the creation of him. But seeing him channel that style of Anakin was also a lot of fun because that's new for everybody. We had never seen that before from that type of Anakin during the prequels. And I also really, really loved seeing him channel the master side of Anakin.
Yeah.
Not like the suave or the kind of like really cool version that we saw in the Clone Wars, but the master version of him that we saw in the Clone Wars, which we never obviously got to see with Hayden back in the day.
Yeah,
well,
I know.
He never got to be a master, Jake.
Well,
yes, you're right. You're right.
I know it must have been really nice for Hayden to be able to get into that role of like a teacher, almost a father figure. Now that Hayden is a father, I bet that was way more satisfying to play a role of a teacher to someone like Ahsoka, who he knows all the history there. So I think that adds even more layers to it that I bet Hayden really appreciated that part of it.
Yeah. I also, we've been talking about the Clone Wars version of him, and I feel like he really channeled Matt Lanter as well. And I remember in the lead up to Obi-Wan Kenobi, he was talking about how he went back and he watched all of the Clone Wars, and it was probably more for this than it was for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
But I feel like it shows, and it made the character feel very cohesive.
This stuff, the transitioning between Anakin and Vader, I said it like twice during a reaction. I was like, oh my God, this is kind of spooky. Like, I was hooked on that part.
The blinking was so cool. The effect that they did.
There's one like small moment when he kicks her back into the world between worlds, and he's like stalking in with the red saber, and it's almost like Henry Cavill reloading his arms in Mission Impossible. But he just does like this shrug, and I'm like, oh God, it's so scary.
You can hear the stomping, and it sounds like Vader stomping, and it's so good.
Well, Jake, you brought up the fact that this is a spiritual Anakin, but let's discuss what we think is actually going on here. Do we think that was really Anakin teaching Ahsoka a lesson, or was it just a fever dream that she was having in the Force? Was it her own mind? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's more so something in line with the Force. Like if we're to ever catch back up with a Force ghost Anakin, I don't think he'll remember or know of anything of that nature happening. Whether it be something that happened just because she was in the world between worlds, or because of the situation that she was in, you know, on the brink of death and choosing between living and dying. I think it was some spiritual guide within the Force that took the embodiment of Anakin and took the memories of Anakin, both light and dark, and helped her decide, look, you're a pivotal point right now. Like this is what's happening. You're either living, you're dying, you're either moving forward in life and choosing one path or choosing the other. And because Anakin is the most important thing to her and always has been and always will be, that was the perfect, embodiment to take because it would have the most effect on her.
Mollie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it could go either way. Like you said in the review, like I feel like it could be up to the viewer's interpretation. But there were a few little things that happened that made me think like, okay, this is some sort of Force ghost of Anakin in the world between worlds doing this on purpose, just because he had a couple little lines. He said, what was it? Ahsoka says,
I will not fight you.
I will not fight you. And he says, I've heard that before. And I immediately thought of the line that Luke says to him in Return of the Jedi. So I was like, Ahsoka wouldn't have known that. Like he wouldn't have made that little connection. And then you mentioned that he didn't recognize the Siege of Mandalore. And
which, if he were part of Ahsoka's memories, then he should know.
It's a good point.
But if it was her just remembering him, he wouldn't have done that.
But that it could just be the Force playing tricks with her, pushing her. Like I think I personally want it to have happened. That's going to be my headcanon, but I think it's going to be something we debate forever and probably won't ever get answered, because ultimately I don't think it matters. as long as I said this in my review, but as long as she learned the lesson, it doesn't matter how she learned it. But it's fun to debate.
Yeah. Alex, did you struggle with not getting a lot, in fact, most of the questions about the world between worlds answered? Like, how'd she end up there?
No, I think they answered everything enough. Just the fact that she is on the brink of death and she is connected to the daughter. She has been to the world between worlds before. Again, like, it's up for debate whether or not she actually was there. I'm going to choose to believe she was, but I guess there doesn't have to be a literal doorway for her to wind up there. You know, we've only seen one other episode about the world between worlds, so we know very little about it. So I would have, you know, my canon loving brain would have loved to check off some boxes of like, there's where the doorway on Cetos is, and that's what it looks like. But it's fine. Like, I was just into the storytelling of it all.
I was convinced that we were gonna see Morai flying around Jason while he was sitting there, like,
that would have been cool.
Trying to figure out what was going on, what it was that he was hearing, and I was so sure that we would see her, but she hasn't popped up yet.
Yeah, I'm also surprised we didn't see her at all.
But I loved all Jason's stuff. There's like a lot of people that are excited for Jason, and a lot of people who are like, ugh, get him off my TV screen. Why is he here? And I'm kind of one of the people that's more excited for him. And as soon as I saw him sitting there, kind of like concentrating, I was like, he knows what's up.
Oh yeah, you called that immediately.
He was hearing something, and I loved that he convinced Hera to come over and like try to hear it too. That was like such a sweet moment.
Question for you two regarding Jason and the world between worlds. I always gotten the impression, and we don't know a lot about it, I had always gotten the impression that it was a very select like thing to know about the world between worlds, right? Like Ezra found a doorway, Ahsoka was obviously pulled through it. Like that's all we really know. Does this lead us to believe that anybody can access the world between worlds regarding the Force anyway?
I mean, I don't think just anyone can, because Palpatine himself struggled to do so. He knew about it and couldn't enter it for himself. So there's got to be maybe it's connected more so with the light side and the cosmic force, maybe life after death, and that's why Anakin was there. But I would have to assume it has to be somewhat difficult to get in. But since Ahsoka's been there before, I'm willing to be like, she's got a monthly pass,
a season pass. Yeah. I feel like it's just one of those things that it's as the Force wills it. You know, if it's meant to be according to the Force, then it'll happen. Whether or not we'll see anyone who isn't trained as a Jedi or like at least trained to be really connected to the Force, I don't think we'd see anyone like that in the world between worlds, but you never know.
That'd be interesting to see if that were a possibility. If at some point someone is in the world between worlds at a portal and they pull in someone who is not Force sensitive, what that would do to them.
Yeah.
I think they would be fine, just very confused and scared.
Yeah. But there would be a reason for it, and it would be all part of whatever plan there is. It's whoever Dave Filoni wants in there, he'll put in there.
Right. And look, I had some anxieties last week about fears that they would really dive into the time travel and that it would stir back up talk about multiverse stuff. And I'm so glad none of that happened. I'm like, thank you, Dave, for keeping it straightforward. I mean, as straightforward as you can. But
there's still going to be those people, unfortunately.
Oh, sure.
Well,
but they didn't do anything that very explicitly is like, and now a multiverse can happen.
Yeah. He didn't do anything like in Rebels where you were shown, you know, the portals and what was happening on the other side or what you thought was happening. He didn't do anything like that, which I was like, that's fine. The way it happened, like Anakin cutting the
bridge.
Floor, the bridge, whatever they were on, and then just kind of falling into her memories. I liked how that was done because, it keeps us away from well, how many portals are actually there?
Yeah.
So
that was, and again, like there are just some things about the world between worlds that looked different, but that was cool seeing him just cut through the floor of it, sending her falling through her memories.
Such an Anakin move too.
Yeah.
So you guys are starting to sway me on the whole it being Anakin thing, by the way. So
I saw someone in the chat say that he had this like perfect smirk on his face when he did that, and he's like, just
so many shots of him. I was like, I would believe that it was just they literally put him in a time machine. He went through the world between worlds and got younger. That's the only explanation. Because it's relevant, I'll bring up this super chat from Jonathan Sky. Thank you. If the world between worlds was just in her head, how did Jason hear her fighting? That's one of the reasons I think that it wasn't just in her head. But Mollie, you had a good thought on that earlier when we were just debating this back and forth.
What was my thought?
Oh, that he could have been doing something kind of like Ahsoka did, sensing the other lightsaber battle.
Yeah, I mean, I choose to believe that he was sensing what Ahsoka was going through in the world between worlds in that moment. But you could also say that he doesn't have a full grasp on how to use his Jedi abilities quite yet, and he might have just been sensing the fight that had happened right there between Ahsoka.
Oh, so a Force echo.
Yeah, between Ahsoka and Balin. So you could kind of go either way, and I like that they kind of left that open, but I'm choosing to believe that he was hearing the two of them fight.
Everything that they kind of conveyed to us visually made me think, no, he's hearing it in the waves. It has to be Ahsoka, and it made Hera believe that Ahsoka was out there too. But it could have been, even though I also believe he was literally hearing her fight in the world between worlds, it could have been that he was connected to her thoughts and whatever fever dream she was having.
Yeah. Who
knows? Well, should we talk about our drawings? Brian might be here in like 4 minutes, so we could get started on ours, and he could reveal his when he gets here.
Yeah. Did you have time to do one, Jake?
I did. I hand drew it on a piece of paper today.
Nice.
Didn't have my whiteboard with me, so.
Well, let's start with our guest.
So I figured that, well, there's obviously a lot going on with Anakin and Ahsoka, so I kind of strayed away from that just in case everybody else did something along those lines. And I decided to go with one of what I think is so far the most beautiful shot we've gotten in an entire series, and one of the coolest shots is her with the Purrgil.
Oh yeah.
Aboard her ship, communicating with them. And my Purrgil needs some work. I apologize, but I love how she just steps into this very different, almost very different Ahsoka in that moment, right? Like the first 4 episodes, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but it's like a total flip in the type of character that we're getting now that she's experienced what she's experienced. And just kind of picking up where you talked about it in your video, Alex, it's a very Jedi type of thing to do. And I loved seeing it, figuring out a different path. And again, it was just a very, very beautiful shot of seeing her just kind of close her eyes, communicate with these very special animals that have a lot of meaning. So.
Well, I'll show mine then too, because that's what I drew.
No way!
Except I had a bunch of Purrgil in mine, and then I realized how phallic they look, so I changed it to just one.
Oh my god, that's so good!
So happy.
That's so good.
He's like, get in my belly. But yeah, I loved that moment too. Just the birth of Ahsoka the White was everything to me in this episode. I loved the flashbacks. I loved all that stuff. But I think once Ahsoka came out visually as Ahsoka the White, I was like, oh, we're in it, baby. Like, she's back. She's acting a little bit more like herself. She's got purpose. She's got conviction now. Like, her outfit is fire. I'm digging all of it. And I noticed her headband is new, and it's got a little circle in the middle of it. And her belt has a circle, and her maybe she'll get the staff eventually. The staff
all
has a
that's
circle
missing.
on it. I'm like, come on, let's
The
do
costume is so sick. There's so good.
There's something I noticed on my third watch when she is getting ready to leave Hera. She tells her, "I'll find them. I'll bring them back." Something like that. She's like, "I'll bring them back. I promise." And I love that her mission has changed from stopping Thrawn to saving her friends.
Yeah.
That's something that she's been way more concerned with Thrawn than actually Ezra, and it's cool to see that already flipping. I'm glad to already see her changing her persona back to more what we're used to Ahsoka being. I drew something different, and it was something I wanted to discuss because it was a small moment, but a fun moment. And it's also starring my boy. It's Carson Teva rolling his eyes at even more new information. That was my biggest laugh of the episode, maybe the series so far, of him just being like, okay. Like
yeah, like, oh yeah, his father was a Jedi, and so he's got Jedi abilities, and Carson is just like, okay.
Yeah.
I don't
Carson
care.
is the audience who hasn't seen Star Wars Rebels, and it's just like they keep getting thrown new stuff, and they just have to be like, all right, I'm in, fine, let's go.
I love the role that they keep putting him in. Every time we see him, it's like the perfect role where not only for him to show up, but him to be involved. And I also love the dynamic he has with Hera too, which is really fun.
It's kind of reminding me, actually, now that I think about it, of Rosario Dawson's character in the original Netflix Marvel shows, where
Night Nurse.
Yeah, Night Nurse. She kept popping up in all the various Netflix series. She was like the consistent through line. Carson is also doing that. In last week's episode, I said, I'm pretty sure he's the only character to appear in all of the live action series, but then everyone quickly corrected me. It's like, Ahsoka has too.
Yeah. Oh, Dave Filoni made sure to sneak her in as much as he could so that she could get enough hype to get her own show so that he could tell this story. And we love him for that.
Yeah. Well, still no Brian. So let's just hop into some questions for a little bit. And then when he gets here, we'll get Brian's thoughts.
Let's do it.
But our first one is from Elo Asti. Thanks so much. How do you expect Ahsoka's approach to teaching Sabine will change now?
I feel like I took a note on this. Hold on. Stand by.
I think it'll be much more patient now. I think, she's not going to be as pushy and kind of almost standoffish when she teaches a little bit and snarky. I think she'll understand, have a little bit more of that master presence. Because I feel like before, and we obviously haven't seen a lot of it, when she was teaching, maybe she wasn't doing it as a master per se or as a teacher. I feel like now that she's gone through what she's gone through, it'll very much be in a leader type role after having the journey that she's just gone through.
So I wrote down something that they said in one of her flashbacks. She's talking to Anakin. She says, "Is that all I'll have to teach to my Padawan? Is how to be a soldier, how to fight." So what we've seen so far of their training, now we don't know what they've already done before this, but mostly what we've seen so far, aside from the cup talk, is fighting. So I think she'll get a little more personal with it. She'll be able to connect to Sabine a little bit more, be more empathetic. Like, she really hasn't been empathetic to Sabine when it comes to why Sabine is there. She mostly just cares about Ezra right now. She wants to continue training, but she's going on this mission to find Ezra. And Ahsoka had been ignoring that, pretending like that wasn't her main reason. So I think they're both going to be able to connect on a better level because now Ahsoka realizes she can be a little more open.
Well, they're on the same page now. Like Ahsoka's mission is to save Sabine and Ezra. I don't think Ahsoka had fully committed herself to training Sabine either time. But now that she's kind of worked through some of her fears, I think she'll dive into it more fully. have a little more fun with it. Kind of like we saw Anakin making jokes at inappropriate times, but just trying to keep your spirit up. So I also think that she has already forgiven Sabine. I don't think she's going to show up and be mad that she didn't destroy the map or anything like that. I think she's just going to be there to rescue her and be supportive.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I'm sure she understands why Sabine did what she did, and she's not going to falter for that.
I think Sabine will probably expect it, but Ahsoka is going to walk in all smiles, dressed in white, and she'll be like, "What's happening? Who are
Sabine
you?"
is like, "What's happening? Did you get laid? What's going on?"
Mollie.
Oh, sorry, I'm not even drinking yet.
Jack Grinnan, thanks for the next one. Ariana Greenblatt killed it as young Ahsoka. I'd love to see more of her. Maybe Ahsoka's early fulcrum years when the actress is a little bit older.
I knew she was the girl from Barbie. I didn't know that she was the girl that played young Gamora too.
Yeah, baby Gamora. Yeah.
I was like, oh, they're just gonna have her play young everyone.
Young everyone, yeah.
Don't give Dave Filoni another reason to make another type of Ahsoka show. And I think Ariana Greenblatt just gave Dave Filoni that exact reason. Because I thought she was great. I thought she really captured a very young version of Ahsoka. Also playing someone opposite like Hayden Christensen in that role.
Oh yeah.
I thought she was very, very good.
Also,
the pressure that I'm sure
playing,
she felt.
Yeah.
She's playing older Ahsoka that appears like young Ahsoka.
True.
Still,
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of levels to that.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I agree that if they were to tell more stories with her, I think that I'd like her to be a little older. It felt a little off to see her at the same age for one of her first missions and the Siege of Mandalore. That's just a tiny nitpick, but if they were going to do some stuff after Order 66, I'd be willing to wait a few years for that.
I liked that in the Siege of Mandalore stuff, she like stands there for a minute and crosses her arms. She's just been using that arm crossing move her whole life.
She does it a lot in the Clone Wars show.
Yeah, she does.
Cameron Stewart, thanks for the next question. Do you think the High Republic Phase 3 will reference any of the hyperspace lore we've seen in Ahsoka? Maybe some of it will be used to explain no space.
I'm surprised we haven't seen Purrgil anywhere else yet, but that could be a Filoni decision. Like he's probably like, y'all can't do anything with the Purrgil until I do my show.
That's possible, because I think he has a collection of things that are his. Like that's why I think it's taken so long to see Jason again. Because we kept seeing Hera. Although it's kind of odd that Hera was allowed to run around in Alphabet Squadron and Star Wars Squadrons, but he's like, save me, Jason.
Yeah.
I don't know how much the High Republic authors know about the development of Ahsoka. I figure they're pretty far along in the High Republic Phase 3, but they're not done with it. They could always add some of that stuff in, like a little reference to intragalactic. I don't know what travel between galaxies. That's possible.
What's no space?
That's where the Nile headquarters is.
Oh.
It's like a place that you can wind up there by accident and then it gets stuck there.
Wasn't that because of what's her name? The real old lady?
Kinda. The Nile had like their special paths that could get you in and out.
Yeah.
I'm behind. I'm pretty far behind on the High Republic, so I don't have much input on this. I'll just say that maybe after this series, there's a chance of seeing Purrgil more. Now that we have seen them,
I hope so, and it makes sense that the Nile wouldn't know about them because it feels like the baddies are constantly having to use technology to get to where they want to get to, and then the good guys are like, I don't know, I got the Purrgil on my side. I'll hitch a ride with them.
Yeah.
They were mentioned. They were mentioned in Quest for the Hidden City and Quest for Planet X. So just Purrgil in general, but it was probably a passing thing. I don't super recall it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Kalia Excuse me. Kalia Kiloa, thank you for the next question. Do you think Anakin will return later in the series with more wisdom? There's some voice lines heard in the trailers that we didn't get in episode 5.
I don't know. I guess after this episode, I figured we wouldn't see any more of him. What do you think, Jake?
I agree. At least this version, I do think that there's a possibility we could see Force Ghost Anakin. So if you want to call it a different version of him, but I do think that we're probably done with the version that we just saw.
Yeah. Yeah, like he shows up at the end and gives Ahsoka like a nod of approval,
like Qui-Gon did for Obi-Wan. Now we get Anakin for Ahsoka. I mean, come on.
Or like the knight at the end of Last Crusade, which Yoda mimicked in Star Wars Rebels, just like a little wave as she runs off.
Yeah.
I kind of think that Anakin is probably over with this series. I think that'll be the one big time we see it, and it was a big thing, and it looked expensive. So I don't know how much more they're gonna show of him. I wouldn't be surprised if Filoni had him read some like red herring lines, because I think the one from the trailer Kalei is referencing was from Tales of the Jedi. So he may have just been like, here, read this real quick. Or maybe he did say it and it was cut. I don't know.
We've seen in movies and television before that stuff has been recorded specifically just for trailers. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. If they have him, why not have him read a line or two that they can place in a trailer?
Right.
Yeah. They were like, all right, Hayden, we're going to do 5 million TV spots for the show. Just read a couple of lines.
Yeah.
I could see that. Bill Devers, thanks so much for the very generous super chat. Ahsoka appears to have lost her sabers. Bets on her using Marok's red crystals to make new ones. If so, we will finally get to see a live action. Will we finally get to see a live action saber creation? Thank you for stewarding a positive, inclusive Star Wars community. You're the best. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. I don't think she lost them.
Yeah, I missed that if that happened.
I double checked, and she does lose them in the World Between Worlds, which this could open up some questions again.
She's got them in this scene because I studied it while I drew it.
She had them when they pulled her out of water, I think.
She does have them after the World Between Worlds, but she does lose them both while she's in there, and she throws away Anakin's lightsaber. So that does beg the question again, like, what of that was real? What was it? What was a vision? That's another kind of tick on the side of, oh, maybe it was all in her head. It's hard to say, because I assume that if you just walked into the World Between Worlds and chucked a lightsaber off of a path, that's just gone.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's a much larger conversation.
Yeah, I know.
I guess I just wasn't paying attention because I mean, I know when she threw his saber because I was like, no, that's an antique. But I didn't notice that she lost hers too.
Yeah, he knocks both of them out of her hands, and then she takes the red one.
Oh, okay, yeah. That was such a cool moment too when her eyes start to get a little Sithy. She's like, bitch.
Dave literally just said, I'm throwing everything at you guys this episode. Like, I've been waiting years to do this. Here you go.
I was hoping Ahsoka would be weird and introduce the live action only audience to some really weird stuff. And yeah, he did all of it.
Yeah.
He was like space whales being swallowed by a space whale, World Between Worlds, time travel, kind of. Like,
I love that when they had to get in the Purrgil. I loved that moment.
Mollie called that too. And I was like, no, they're not gonna go.
I was like,
Purrgil. And then it's just like
maybe they could just get in its mouth. I don't know. That's exactly what happened, and I love that.
There's probably some like mythological symbolism, like Jonah and the whale, or something like that.
Isn't that what happened in Pinocchio? Didn't they get in a whale's mouth in Pinocchio?
Yeah.
Right?
On purpose? I can't remember.
No,
I think they got swallowed and they were in there for a while.
Yeah, usually it doesn't happen on purpose. That's the thing.
Yeah, it made me think of the space slug where like that was for sure an accident, and this was kind of cool because they did it on purpose. But it was funny because Ahsoka was like, I'm gonna go out and ask permission first before we just like try to force ourselves into this thing's mouth.
Well, we finally have our fourth guest here. Hey, Brian.
Hello. Oh, look, my puppy's in the picture.
You have the wrong franchise behind you.
I know. Yeah.
Rotate the camera to the Star Wars side of the room.
That would be the ceiling, I think, maybe.
Oh,
Not
okay.
nicer. Yeah. The
I was
stars,
just
you
joking.
know? Theme. Hello. What are we talking about? Just a little Star Wars stuff?
just some random episode that aired.
Okay, cool. Sounds
No.
great.
Not that
So we'll
exciting.
catch you up real quick, Brian. What have been your thoughts on Ahsoka as a series so far?
I don't know how Star Wars is going to top this. Like, I honestly, truly feel like I'm like, what show can get better than this? Because I just am blown away by it every single week. Like, it literally feels like a movie that they just split in half into little different pieces. And I said to Jake yesterday, like, I would give anything for them to just like stitch every episode together and just have it be one continuous thing and drop it in the movie theater, because I would watch the heck out of it in like the theater.
I want to say that might happen just because they released this one in theaters. I'm like, fingers crossed.
I think
they
it'll be a
decide to
little
do that.
long, but there definitely will
Don't
be
care.
candidates.
I'd spend
mean-
6 hours in a movie theater.
They
Yeah.
played all the Lord of the Rings movies back to back
That's true. That's
in
true.
theaters.
They do
They're
marathons
doing the
all
Bat
the time.
or the Dark Knight franchise this weekend.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
Yeah, it would
They
just
could do
be
Fair point.
incredible. I mean, it feels like you're watching a movie every time. Like, it just, to me, it's on like the same par as like Solo, like just like that same kind of feeling where it doesn't feel like it's a trilogy thing, but it feels like it's just as like cool and important and leaves you wanting more. But yeah, I'm obsessed with it. I think it's the best thing they put out maybe since Disney's owned Star Wars.
I do think it looks fantastic. There have only been a couple of times where I've been like, volume, but for the most part, I think it looks really, really good. I mean, just watching the ghost fly over water
Yeah.
and stuff today, I was like,
That scene was so
looks
cool.
great.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about this a little bit about the flashbacks, and I don't hate the fact that they used all the fog, but I was like, that was a budget reason. Like,
100%.
Probably.
they
100%,
spent
yeah.
so much on making Ahsoka and Anakin look good, which thank goodness. But then
Oh
they were
my
like, ooh,
God.
we can't do anything in the background here. Just make it all foggy.
Anakin looked incredible.
Yeah.
There are certain de-agings that to me are like pretty much flawless. I would say Samuel L. Jackson and Captain Marvel being one of them. I personally think the Tarkin one was fantastic. And this one, like, I mean, it was perfect. Like,
I'm struggling to find fault in this one. At the end of last week, there was something about it where I was like, I'm not sure, but this whole episode in part 5, I was like,
right?
that
Okay.
might as well be him.
I was the same way, where at the end of 4, I was like, okay, like, it looks pretty good. Like, I'm not going to complain. And then this one, I was like, holy moly, it looks like they literally just ripped it from parts of episode 2 and 3 and just put it
It
in.
did. He entered the world between worlds and he came to film this show.
I guess. I mean, holy moly.
Yeah.
It looked great. Better than I could ever imagine them done.
I mean, they do have a lot of footage of Hayden from back then, so I'm sure they had a lot to work with to make that happen. So
Yeah. It was great in my opinion.
It's just they clearly put a lot of time and effort in this compared to the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which I think they probably had a little more budget to work with, maybe in this specific episode, and I think they threw most of it at the de-aging, and that's why I'm like, yeah, the flashbacks to the Clone Wars, I'm like, it would have been cool to see Ryloth and see Mandalore a little better, but it's hazy memories. I'll get behind it. It's fine.
Okay, I have a question. Do you think that the Mandalorian that Ahsoka just straight up stabs through the middle, that to me looks like a completely CGI Mandalorian.
I've seen a lot of people
Are they
speculating
saying it?
that it is, but I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them to just make that totally CG because it happens very quickly.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's possible.
I didn't really scrutinize it very much.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the heck out of this show more than I mean, we were pretty excited when they announced that celebration, but I didn't think it would be to this level. Like it's, I've never rewatched a show so quickly. Like that episode, like the second Jake and I like signed off, I turned it back on and rewatched it again. And
So would episode 5 be both of your favorites so far?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah. I mean, four is very close. I think just as far as choreography goes, when it came to the fights and with Balin and everything that he was saying, just the dialogue, it's close. But there's just something about the Anakin Ahsoka stuff in this episode that tops it.
It's our prequel baby love. Like it's, I mean, that's you went back to our childhood, literally.
Yeah.
Like that. And I mean,
the redemption this guy is getting is
unbelievable. It's fantastic and so well deserved. I just think it was so, for the people that have watched everything, like the 4 of us, this is one of those like payoff episodes where it like it still works for the other people, because my friend that's casual watched last night and he was like, I don't know what the hell is going on, but this is awesome. Like he was like, all he cared about was it was dope seeing Anakin. Like that's all he cared about. He got to see young Anakin again, and he doesn't know anything about Ahsoka from the animated stuff or whatever, but he's like slowly learning about it and loving it. Whereas for us, it's like, oh my gosh, we actually just saw like some of the animated stuff done perfect in live action, but they're not going to know that. So it's kind of like a little nugget for us, but still like really cool for the casual people. And I think that to me is the coolest thing that I mean, I can't think of very many things where it's like so perfectly like enjoyed by the ones that know everything and the ones that don't really know anything at all.
It's good to know that people are accepting of Anakin having a Padawan. I think it'd be hard to not know that by now. People probably tend to know it, but I was a little curious to see if we'd get like a resurgence of people being like, Anakin didn't have a Padawan.
Yeah. I haven't heard one person,
me neither,
honestly, say it.
Did we see the Phase 1 clone trooper armor in Andor?
No.
I think this is the first time we saw it
in live action.
I don't think we did an Andor.
Okay, so this is the first time we've seen the fins.
Yeah, it was always
so
CG
awesome.
Before that.
So awesome.
Yeah.
I love the fins so much.
That was so fun to see. And we got to see Rex, and we got Chimora Morrison with a little one-liner as Rex. That was good.
I loved it.
Yeah, it just did any of you actually like think like, oh, maybe Obi-Wan might pop up too? Or was that just me?
I think that was
wasn't expecting Obi-Wan.
I wasn't expecting anything. I would have welcomed it, but it definitely seemed like they were focusing on the Anakin Ahsoka relationship.
Yeah,
that would have distracted Anakin enough to be like to maybe take away from what this is about.
That was just my selfishness wanting to see Ewan McGregor in the armor suit.
Yeah.
Honestly, that might be my favorite like clothing that a character's ever worn. So I was just like, please, dear God, like just show up wearing that. I don't care if you talk. I don't care if you do anything.
He just like flies by and waves.
Yeah, by the screen, and like that's all I need.
He's in a speeder or a ship, and he's like, I hate flying.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, like, okay, like that works for me.
I love the story of like the armor that it was created for budget reasons because they couldn't animate the robes, and then fans started to latch onto the armor, and they're like, now give us the armor in live action. Like it's this weird circular thing.
The armor's awesome.
Oh,
it
yeah, it's
looked
great.
like it was ripped out of the animation, and just like it was incredible. I think I think my favorite thing was the little like transitions of the like flashes of Vader.
Mhm.
I was just like, no, like they're just like feeding us with like I was blown away by it. Like
It was a little spooky, and I loved it.
yeah, it really was. Like they definitely made you like afraid of him. Like he was not messing around. Like
Yeah. Well, I was telling Alex earlier, I'm really glad that they took the time to acknowledge Anakin's dark side and Vader, because they could have easily had Anakin come in, be this really sweet, kind father figure, master role for Ahsoka, and like talk her through her feelings, take her through her memories, and be really kind. But they went in dark directions with him, and like I was just like so psyched that they did that and didn't just completely ignore the fact that he was completely a Sith for a long time and did a lot of terrible things.
And I was fully expecting just the like, let's be in the world between worlds and have a little chat. Like,
that's what I thought.
What I thought was going to happen, and this was way better.
Yeah.
Second he lit his lightsaber, I was like, oh, it's going down. Like they're not gonna just like, hey, like it's my lightsaber. Like it was yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Alex, I was trying to think of what I could compare this to, because we were talking earlier about how we might actually like episode 4 a little better, but I think it's just because we don't connect with the Clone Wars lore as intensely as some people, because we didn't grow up watching it. And I was thinking, if we were getting a live action Sailor Moon show and they did like an insanely cool like live action episode where they brought in all these like deep cut characters, I'd be losing my freaking mind.
Right.
I would have passed out. So
that's how we feel right now.
I know.
Exactly.
And then transforming into the costume.
And
so I get it.
That's why I asked Brian, how old were you in 2008?
You're
Math.
Answer correctly, Brian.
15
I
years
was-
ago.
I
Yeah,
was
you're a teacher.
18.
Get this right.
I was 18
Okay.
because I graduated high school at 17 in 2007. So 18.
Yeah. But you grew up watching Clone Wars.
No, actually.
I
Interesting.
got Brian to watch.
No,
Clone
he
Wars.
didn't.
Interesting.
He just
You,
lightly
Brian,
suggested, same with Rebels. He likes to try to take claim that he got me into.
Come
both
on,
of
Billy.
it.
Come on, man.
Um,
Why you gotta
It's
be
true.
like that?
yeah. No, I probably only got into the Star Wars animation
Tell the truth, Brian.
2017.
Wow.
Yeah,
We were living together, and I said, and he wasn't really anti-animation, but he was like,
I was
don't know.
anti Anakin having a Padawan.
Yeah, and I told him,
No.
I said, look, watch this stuff. I promise you. And boom.
I'm seeing a lot of people in chat say that there was a live action. I realized that there was a live action version. I'm talking about like a brand spanking new. They spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on it to
Like
make
what
it
they're
look
doing with Avatar.
to make it look like this level good. That's,
I don't have a history with the animated side because for the longest time, I was one of those like, didn't happen in the movie, I don't care. Like, same with a lot of the Legends books. Like, I was like, only movie, because I didn't even think like that they would eventually like connect Clone Wars to it. Like, I never thought it would be like as integral into like the lore as it is now. So I just didn't care, and I was super anti Ahsoka because it's like Anakin didn't have a Padawan in the movies. Where was she between 2 and 3? So like that whole thing was like my driving force. And then he slightly suggested like, just try it. It's like, okay.
I gave him the chronological order to watch it, which helped.
Does lightly suggest mean like a Clockwork Orange where you strapped him down and his eyeballs were
pretty much. Pretty much.
I love that Dave Filoni tells that same story, though, where George Lucas invited him to come and work on the Clone Wars, and he's like, Anakin had a Padawan. And Dave's like, Anakin didn't have a Padawan. And George's like, Anakin had a Padawan. Like, okay, Anakin had a Padawan.
That's the genius of George Lucas, though, because he's like, we got to keep this storytelling interesting to children in order to sell toys, in order to get new generations into it. Yes, Anakin had a Padawan. You'll thank me later.
Yeah, and it's also just that he doesn't. He'll figure out the specific later, and it's like now we're used to the idea. It was just that at the time we didn't know he had a Padawan, and Brian, we were like, well, where was she during the Clone Wars? And it's like, well, maybe if you watch the show, you'll get your answers. But
100%.
Yeah,
I think, Jake, correct me if I'm wrong. The whole reason I watched Clone Wars was so I could get to Rebels.
Yeah, because Rebels had started, I believe.
I think it had either just started or
2017. Yeah, it would have
started.
Oh no, 2015.
It was
I think
because Thrawn was coming, and I knew Thrawn. Was
coming.
So
it was season 3 was coming, and I was like, Brian.
Yeah, you were like, you're gonna miss out on a bunch of stuff if you don't, especially the like Ahsoka stuff. And so I was like, well, you tied my arm.
Yeah, and it was a very hard sell because obviously at the time, like, your 6 seasons of animated shows, but they were also 20 episodes or so. Like, that's a lot of television to get to.
There was a lot of freaking Clone Wars.
A lot of episodes, but for anybody out there who may watch this and is in the same boat of Brian, it pays off. Like it all pays off. Just give it a chance.
Brian, did you think Thrawn was going to be in Clone Wars?
No, because I had known he wasn't in Clone Wars because they were at the time were making such a big deal of Thrawn making his actual appearance in Rebels. Like,
okay,
hey, this guy's a big freaking deal, and we're putting him in Rebels. And so that was me like, okay, crap, I need to rewatch everything so I can get to this point.
Yeah.
I know you're a big Thrawn fan, so have you been antsy?
I have, but honestly, I'm not upset he hasn't shown up yet. I almost kind of like am enjoying like the buildup and the like savoring the like now before like this giant force comes in and starts just wreaking havoc. So like, I mean, to be completely honest, I would be fine if he only showed up at the very last episode. Like, that's like, I'm enjoying it that much without him that if he literally just showed up, like if they did like Thanos at the end of what was it, Guardians, where it's just like a quick thing at the end and you knew it was
Avengers.
Oh, it was Avengers. I would be fine with that because it is just, I'm enjoying the heck out of Morgan, Balin, shit, like all the characters that they have in it so far that like I almost kind of don't need him right now, even though he's my all-time favorite character.
Yeah, I think the build-up is key there. Like the build-up to Ahsoka keeps bringing Thrawn up, and she was like, if we can't get that map, we have to destroy it. We can't risk Thrawn coming back. So like the build-up for Thrawn has been insane, and I would also be okay if it weren't till the last episode, but I'm kind of hoping we get there before then. Like that's kind of why I loved this episode so much, but I think I loved it more for, okay, we got over this hump, we got Ahsoka where she needs to be, and then I'm more excited about like where we go from this point on.
Yeah,
I think he shows up 7-8. I think 6 will be mostly getting there and being on this new place or whatever, and then you'll catch him at the very end, and then 7 and 8 he'll be.
Yeah, I think he shows up next episode. I think the first 5 were all about getting to Ahsoka the White, and the last 3 will all be about Thrawn. Now we're there. Like we're there. Like the Purrgil are taking us. They've been there. Like we are where we're supposed to be with all these characters.
I
would
think.
not.
Go ahead, Brian.
I was just saying, I would not be surprised if the very last. Sorry, Jake. I know you haven't watched the trailers, but I would not be surprised if the very last shot of the next episode is the one of him walking into the ship with the back of his head.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be like literally like Morgan and them say like we found him, blah blah blah. He gets on the ship and it's the last shot of him just walking into the ship. Like I would not be surprised at all if that was the last thing you saw in episode 6, and then he gets more introduced.
Here's my theory, and it involves today's episode. Because that little New Republic fleet showed up at Cetos, I think that we need to
I love your theory.
Thank you. I think we need to see Thrawn and being a threat. Yeah. They keep talking about, oh, it's dangerous. If he comes back, it'll be bad. It'll be bad. But most people have never seen Thrawn before. So I think they're going to find him. And in episode 8, they'll get the Chimera, his Star Destroyer. They'll fly it back to Cetos, and it'll be like some rundown piece of junk that's been lost for 10 years. And the New Republic fleet's going to be like, what's this busted up Star Destroyer doing here? And he's just going to wipe them out. He's going to destroy those 3 ships without a problem. And then that will show the audience that, okay, this dude is serious business.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what this other galaxy looks like. Like,
Same.
is it barren? Is it abandoned? Is it a city type scape? Like
it's all upside down. It's got to be.
I feel like
he could have
a whole galaxy of Tatooines.
He could have some kind of control in this other galaxy already. So we could get there, and they could already show us
Mollie,
how he's scary and important.
Did you beat Survivor? Yeah,
not yet, but I know what happens at the end.
Okay,
I don't. Oh, I guess I do.
I told you what I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna give like Tanalorr vibes. Like it's just kind of gonna be maybe a little bit step up because they've been there a while, so it's not like they're gonna just be like, I don't know, just hanging out
still bare bones.
Yeah, like an episode of Survivor. But
unless time works different where they are.
I was just about to bring this up. It's perfect.
That would
timing
be so cool.
From our friend Maddie Gunner, who sent in a super chat. Thanks, Maddie.
Thanks, Maddie.
Hello, friends. Do you think we could get an interstellar situation where time passes differently in the new galaxy, so only minutes have passed before Thrawn emerges in front of the New Republic?
Could you imagine? And Ezra's the same. Like
that would be wild. I never even thought about that.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think that everyone will have aged 10 years just because Star Wars doesn't really tend to care about the rules of light.
Age doesn't really matter in Star Wars too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if they were to introduce it, I would be like, okay, just a new Star Wars thing.
They did it in the Mortis arc, which was already a lot for a lot for new fans to take in. That whole arc was very different from what we had been getting. So it has been done before, but I kind of would rather see what they're like after the time has passed and like what happened between Thrawn and Ezra. Or does Ezra have some kind of weird Stockholm syndrome? Have they bonded at all? Or is he just in a dungeon? I don't think Thrawn would put him in a jail cell for 10 years.
My headcanon, and it's probably completely off, but tells me that they're separated. They have been for a long time. Ezra is like the Oliver Queen of Star Wars, where he's off on an island by himself, long beard, beat up, raggedy clothes, still doing his thing. And then Thrawn has gone and like taken over some civilization or something. And he's got an army, or at least a very small army, where he's been living, thriving, doing his thing. And then all of a sudden, Morgan and company come into play, and now they have a group of people to face off when they eventually come back to the galaxy.
Do you think the Chimera is still intact?
Yeah,
It's
I
gotta
want to see
be.
that Star Destroyer with
You
the
think?
painting on it and
They
everything.
have to bring that into live action in its entirety.
I hope to God it is.
Only its windows were broken. So
Yeah, I mean, I hope it is. But if it wasn't, I would not be surprised if they did some type of maybe like it broke up and they got put on separate sides of the planet or something
What
like
if what if they found some kind of new tech out there and Thrawn comes back and uses it and they're like, oh my god, what are we gonna do to fight this? Would that be too Death Star-y?
If they do a super weapon, like Thrawn doesn't need a super weapon. He
Nah.
doesn't like super weapons.
his brain's his super weapon.
Yeah, he is the super weapon.
Yeah,
he's just been
But,
been
like-
collecting art, sitting on a couch, drinking whiskey. That's what he's been doing.
I'm just wondering if
he doesn't. He's not lazy.
if the other galaxy is like something like Wakanda and he's like built an
Oh.
insane used some kind of new technology to like make his ship indestructible or something.
It's kind of it's like, and this isn't the best reference because the movie wasn't very good, but like King in the quantum realm,
Oh, I didn't see
creating that giant city inside the quantum realm. You don't need to see
the
it.
big
That's okay.
the big head guy.
No,
No,
No, that's for
MODOK.
MODOK.
I have him on my wall. You want me to go show it? No.
Yeah, I mean that the new tech idea is very Marvel and probably won't happen in Star Wars, but I do think that would be cool.
I think it's probably going to be a lot simpler. Like they're just gonna
We're probably way off.
I just would laugh if they show up like, we found you. We got to take you back. The Empire's falling. And he's like, I'm good.
I'm having
Yeah.
so much fun here.
Yeah.
I'm chilling. Like, this place is cool. Like,
I feel
That's
like Balin and Shin are gonna want to stay. Like Balin keeps talking about a new beginning for them, and I'm wondering if the new beginning is this other galaxy for
Yeah,
them.
Balin definitely
Oh.
could.
I don't think he's gonna make it out of this series.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not because it's real life. In general, I just don't think he's gonna make it out of this.
I want to learn more about him before
Yeah.
he goes.
He's fan.
He's so good. That's
It
that's
is.
my one negative about this episode is like I missed Balin.
No,
Just one scene at the end of him chilling.
I like what you said, Alex, that Ahsoka's gonna get to the other galaxy and be like, "Well, I got to catch up with Anakin, and he still doesn't mention you or remember you."
and I'm gonna poke the hornet's nest with I love Shin. I think she's phenomenal. She is just so evil, and just the actress playing her is fantastic. To me, like I love her just as much as I love Reva. Like I think these women villains are just absolutely destroying. Like, I'm like, give me more. I for the people that are saying I don't like Reva, but they like Shin, like they're the same level of amazingly evil and just like messed up. I don't get it. I think they're two of the coolest new introduced characters we've had for a while, and I need to see a alien red lightsabered bad guy, because seeing Ahsoka's eyes turn Sith holding a red lightsaber, I was like, crap, I need to see a bad villain alien bad lady.
Yeah, the Revan Shin stuff, I haven't really seen much of that online. I know that there's talk of all that stuff from the worst side of the internet, but like Reva's story was like central to the story of Obi-Wan, and Shin in Ahsoka, I see her more as a Darth Maul character where she says very little, but she's very intense and she's a fighter. She's like Balin's attack dog, and I love that just as much as a character whose backstory is essential to the overarching story of the the whole season. But I do hope we get to find out a little bit more.
I would love to learn more about both of them because I love
Same.
their master and apprentice relationship. It
I wanna
feels
know how he
closer
found
to,
her.
yeah, it feels closer to a Jedi relationship than a Sith one.
Mm-hmm.
Like they seem to actually respect and care about one another.
Yeah.
It's every character. I freaking Hu Yang is like just absolutely like one of the best parts of the things that he says, and just like it's like I did not expect to care this much about that character and how important he's been. Like-
That scene where Hera like sees him around the corner of the stone holding Sabine's helmet, we were both like, "No, Hu Yang, don't
Yeah, and
blame
the line
yourself."
when he says, "I told them to stay together."
They
I
never
told them to stay together.
They
That
never
was so
Yeah.
sad.
I know.
Yeah.
Brian, I know you're at work still, so you may not have had time, but did you do a drawing?
I did.
Look at you.
I am a very bad artist.
But look at all the stuff behind you.
I traced those. That doesn't.
Oh, you made all that though? Good for you.
Oh yeah. Oh, you could. I have them all around my classroom. I'll send you a video of it. This was the only scene that I thought I could maybe get away with drawing, and it was just kind of funny to me in the moment. And I did Ahsoka about to fly into the Purrgil's mouth.
Yay!
So yeah, that was that. Very simple.
That's what me and Jake drew too.
I'm so surprised that there were more of these on this. I didn't think anybody. I thought we were gonna go more towards the Anakin Ahsoka route.
Y'all
No.
basic.
Now
I have the ability to draw one person. I can't draw two people. That's too
That's
hard.
true. Brian, I'll share mine with you. It's, Carson Teva learning more information that he wasn't ready for.
fair enough. No, I just love the fact that it's like, how are we gonna get there? Oh, it's just gonna swallow us basically, and we're just gonna write it there. It's like, oh,
Yeah. I talked about it earlier, but the reveal of Ahsoka the White in her full new uniform was like chef's kiss. So
You better.
good.
I'm getting that hot toy. I'm
It
getting
was-
that figure. Whatever I got to.
you have a family. You've been said. You said you have. It's that one.
It's on. It's on my future son dime.
Put it on the baby. The
Yeah, it's on the registry.
Registry,
Put it on the
List of-
registry.
Every excuse from now on is gonna be like, he wanted it.
Yeah, he wanted it. Look at it. Look at his face. He wanted it.
Yeah.
Look how much he loves it.
Like no, he just has gas. It's just yeah, no. It's so simple and clever. Like, how are you gonna get to the next galaxy? Oh, the Purrgil's just gonna let us go in its mouth. I thought
I
they would
do.
attach to it or something.
I
No,
did too.
it's just
I
gonna
do
swallow.
wonder why, like, what was keeping everyone from thinking of trying this. I mean, the Purrgil or how they got there in the first place. Is no one like, should we maybe try the Purrgil again?
I mean, it's a weird ask. It's a big
It
thing
is,
to ask an
but-
animal to put you in its mouth.
It
And-
is,
and-
and I'm sure Ahsoka needed to go on this journey in order to be open enough to try it. But I'm like, it was right there.
Maybe they just didn't think that it was like a set destination until they saw them on this planet.
By the way,
True.
I love that she has no idea if it's going to
Yeah.
work. Like that was one of my
Fear
favorite
in
moments.
Hu Yang was made me laugh so hard. Where are we going? I don't know.
Yeah, it could go anywhere.
Yeah. And he's just like, what?
Well, it just plays to her persona, right? Like how different she is after the experience that she just went through, which I love. I love the flip that we got. And it's to all those people who've been hating on her personality or whatever for the first 4 episodes. Here you go. It was for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get a big white like blanket scarf and wear it this fall /
Mollie,
winter.
have you seen the Selena Gomez picture?
Yeah.
Did you see people throw Ahsoka's stuff on top of it? And now
I did see that.
it's
It's just like-
perfect. I love how casual they made her Ahsoka the White. Like it was just like
It was like a little bit at a time too.
yeah, but it's just
Which-
like she saw
Little
a
white
knitted
blanket.
white pullover and was like, looks
I
comfortable.
can't wait to
else-
see the outfit without the cape on. What it
Yeah.
looks like. It's gonna be awesome.
This
Was
series
anyone
has
else
been doing a
freaked
lot of
out?
dramatic like cape removals.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did anyone else get freaked out seeing her without a headband?
I loved it.
I was like,
The first thing I said to Brian when we saw it, when we were doing the reaction, I was like, whoa, that's the first time we've ever seen her in any form, and how like seamless it looked. Like it looked really good as
I was
far
just
as
like,
makeup
she's
goes.
bald. Her hairline
It
is
was
receding.
definitely a little weird, but I thought it looked really good for the
Yeah.
first time ever seeing it.
It was like a little shocking, but it did look really
Yeah.
good.
Absolutely. I liked it though, because like my friend who has no idea asked, is that a hat?
My mom asked the same thing.
Yeah, and that's what Mollie said, is because it does kind of look like there's a bit of like space underneath the bottom of it, which we know it's like a strap, but to them, a casual person, it does look like it's a hat because it's got the little like diamond looking shape thing and that. So like for me, seeing that, it kind of was like, oh yeah, that's like definitely a part of her, and I liked it because I mean, to me, like Hera looks fantastic. Like they're not the same species, but it's close. But you always knew like the Twi'leks, that's a part of them. Whereas like this is a different one, so the casual person probably doesn't know, but then you see that and it's like, oh, okay, that's a part of her alien species.
I think it
Plus
probably
it's-
was meant to throw us a little bit, just
Yeah.
to show her in kind of a vulnerable state, a different state that we were like, oh, that's new.
Yeah. Plus, it goes along with the fact that she's stripped down, and like the foreshadowing from what Balin said in episode 4 of like you have to destroy to create. He destroyed Ahsoka to create Ahsoka the White, and like this whole transformation, it's like it works so perfectly to a lot of the dialogue that we've already been hearing throughout the show. That's good stuff.
So, Miranda here, thanks for the super chat. Said, I loved how seamless Ahsoka's head montrals looked without the headpiece, like Shakti.
Yeah, it looked fantastic. God, I can only imagine how long that took to make. Oh God.
Well, it's about that time for us where we will let the two of you go. But before you do, where can everyone find you and follow you online?
Me? Oh, B Avalcino on Twitter and Instagram. A certain point of view with these fine people, not him.
He's there every so often.
Yeah, and makes his appearance basically when Mollie needs a new drink. So yeah.
Same POV with Brian, Mollie, and Jill. We're live every Monday at 6 o'clock Pacific, talking all kinds of fun pop culture entertainment. We have a Patreon. Brian and I are doing Ahsoka episode reactions if you want to check those out as well. And then I do a little show on my own where I have guests on called The Whiskey Jedi. I talk Star Wars, things I love talking about, Marvel, Indiana Jones, and I taste test whiskey, which
There's
is
our
all available
fourth.
on my social media. So hi, Jill. And then at Qui-Gon Jake on all socials. 2 N's because someone else took it before I did.
Yeah, in this situation, Mollie, are you us or are you Mrs. Star Wars Explained?
I walk the line. I'm in both worlds.
She walks both worlds.
Yeah.
Is that what the armorer said?
Yeah. I'm like in the world between worlds. I've got one leg on either side of a portal.
Okay.
Thank you guys, though. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks
for
you. Have fun
coming.
reading all those lovely super chats.
We got a
Bye,
lot
guys.
of questions to get through. So see y'all. Bye.
Bye. Had to
And-
give Jill a shout out in the chat.
Yeah. And real quick, we're going to take a 1-minute break here. We do have a sponsor for the stream, so we're going to play that and we'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Do you ever have trouble staying present and in the moment like Qui-Gon advises Obi-Wan to do?
Keep your concentration here and now where it belongs.
I know I have. I've struggled with anxiety for years as my thoughts drift off to worries about the future. Something that's helped me work through those thoughts is by talking about them. Therapy gives you a judgment-free place to do exactly that, so you can get out of negative thought cycles and find some mental peace. In the past, my therapists have helped me regain perspective on some issues I was grappling with and taught me some coping skills to prevent going down a rabbit hole of anxiety. If you've ever considered therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just have to fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists for any time for no additional charge. Get a break from your thoughts with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/SWE today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/SWE.
Can't hear you.
Oh, muted myself. I was turning my fan on and all kinds of things. It's getting hot in here.
It was probably for the best to get all the coughing and like sniffling and stuff out.
I've been doing all right for the most part. Mostly just
great.
stuffy.
I'm gonna go downstairs and grab a beverage. Do you need anything?
I'll take one. Let's try it. Yeah.
I can bring you NyQuil. We can get
No,
really weird.
That's a bad idea.
We can get really weird.
It's a bad idea.
Okay, I'll be right back.
All right. I'm going to dive into some questions here. First up from Elo Asti. Thank you. Why don't Alex and Mollie drink protein or meal replacement shakes to stay full during these long discussions and leave something in the slow cooker? We have done the slow cooker before, but we have protein shakes and stuff during the day. I don't want to. If I load up on protein, I will spend the entire stream farting, and no one wants that. Mollie wouldn't stop laughing, so we wouldn't get anything done. BK11648, thank you for the very generous super chat. I don't have a question, just want to say thank you for all the great content, and it was great meeting you and the Force Center team at Celebration in London. Thank you so much. Celebration, that feels like it was ages ago. And it was, 5 months? That was a good time. London was great. Tim Harrison. When Ahsoka took Anakin's red saber, she did the same move Anakin used to take Dooku's saber in Revenge of the Sith. I wonder if that could be more evidence of that being something through the Force. You know, like I'm still going back and forth. My headcanon is that it all really happened to her. She was really in the world between worlds, but that's something that she wouldn't have witnessed, obviously. But maybe she would have seen Anakin do that move before. Something similar to it. I'm the Stein. Thank you. I've been seeing confusion as to how Ahsoka got to the world between worlds, but do we really need a physical door, or do we just understand she has a strong connection and the planet strong in the Force in her time of need? Yeah, like that was something I was hoping would be answered, and it wasn't. It still left very vague and ambiguous, and I'm okay with that. Like a lot of these mystical things in Star Wars, like I still have questions about Mortis from 2010, 2011 when that came out. So we're not going to get answers for everything. So this is when we have fun filling in speculation. But no, I don't think that there needs to be a physical door, especially when you're Ahsoka and you have a link to Morai and the daughter and the cosmic force, and you're on death's door. Like, I think there were a lot of factors that could lead to her astral projecting there, I guess. Thank you. So I would say that I'm still a little confused about it, but I'm not bothered by it, if that makes sense. And I don't think there has to be a specific portal every time. Darth Nicholas, thank you for the next super chat. Mollie and I were laughing the second we saw those clone troopers. We're like, oh, Darth Nicholas is going to be having a field day. As a Jedi, I was taught to preserve life. I led these clones, know these men to their deaths. These were living, sentient beings. What I have been asked to do is the opposite of everything I was trained to do as a Jedi. That's from Kukruk. And you have more here. Thank you. That Kukruk, the Whiffid Jedi quote came from the Dark Horse comic Jedi Mace Windu and reminded me of Ahsoka's interaction with the dying clone in the flashback. That interaction reminded me of the episode. I can't remember what it's called. I remember Anakin commits a war crime in it, but Ahsoka accidentally leads a lot of clones to their deaths and has to grapple with that. And I think that Filoni was trying to kind of hit that story beat and the gravity of a young girl, a Padawan, being in this situation. I think he was trying to get through that very quickly for people who never watched the Clone Wars.
I'm back.
Thank you for the drink.
You're welcome.
And Nicholas has another one. Another relevant quote comes from Ki-Adi-Mundi in Republic Commando, Hard Contact. When I see one of these clones killed, I weep more for him than for any ordinary soldier who has lived a full and normal life. That's definitely Legends Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Oh, yeah. Canon Ki-Adi-Mundi is...
kind of a dick.
Star Wars Explained After Dark.
Pedro TV, thank you for the next two. Hayden and Adam Driver are my favorite actors in terms of lightsaber physicality. So good. Young Ahsoka was pretty great too. Oh, I just pull it up.
Bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, between Hayden and Adam Driver, like, they are so strong. Like, Adam Driver is a little bit larger of a person than Hayden, but the way that they wield lightsabers, it's just like, it's like Balin. Like, a one-hit kill is possible for them. And, like, especially in this one, Anakin's fighting style was, like, really hard-hitting, and you could see Ahsoka, like...
Anakin is so, hard-hitting, but also really fast, where Kylo, I feel, is a little slower with the crossguard. Not that they were... I mean, maybe they were kind of treating it like a Claymore, but still, like, Anakin is just that perfect balance between speed and scary strength.
Yeah.
And speaking of Ben Solo, Jason actor looks a lot like a young Ben Solo.
He kind of does.
Oh boy, here come the wild theories.
Oh no.
From the internet.
Something that I noticed, I was like, I still can't really tell if that is a green hair wig or if they what am I trying to say? If they CGI'd his hair green. I can't tell.
Could they not have just dyed it? Like,
I don't know,
you're the hair and wig master. You're the one that...
It's too vibrant to be dyed that color, which is why I'm like, I kind of think it's at least enhanced by CGI. I don't know.
Maybe.
And then I'm like, is that what they're putting their budget towards? Like, couldn't they just given him a green wig?
I would have guessed it was a wig or hair color of some kind, but I don't know. You know what? I wonder if they decided to make it green in post, because
that's what I'm saying.
You're right, because of the Lego.
Yeah.
The Lego leak had brown hair, so they may have said, let's film it with brown hair and we'll decide later.
That's what I'm saying. I was going to bring that up too. It looks
something.
For how dark it is, it looks a little too vibrant for it to not be done by computers, but that's just an opinion, and it doesn't matter either way. It's just a silly hair thing that I
was making a joke about the wild theories coming, and then Mollie just drops one. Hair, is it real? What is it?
Anywho.
Myriad Media Musings, thanks for the next one. Do you think Ahsoka Episode 5 was the best Episode 5 of a Star Wars thing since Star Wars Episode 5? Okay.
Oh, the best Episode 5 of anything? Specifically?
No, I'm running through like the other series and stuff. The Episode 5 of Season 2 of The Mandalorian was also an Ahsoka episode, but I liked this one more. Episode 5 of Season 1 of The Mandalorian was Gunslinger. I liked this one way more.
Yeah. Andor was The Axe Forgets on Aldani. Pretty good.
I liked this one more than The Axe Forgets.
I think if we're saying specifically like episode 5 of things, this might take it. I don't think it's the best. I'm definitely in the minority here, but I don't think it's like the best thing, the best new Star Wars ever so far.
Well, that's like what we've been talking about with Jake and Brian. I was surprised to hear that Brian had a relationship with Star Wars animation more like us, where we did not grow up with the Clone Wars. I don't have the same level of connection with Ahsoka as so many Star Wars fans have. I'm thrilled that everyone loves it as much as they do, and I'm like, I really like it. But yeah, it's not my absolute top tier thing. But it was a great episode, super fun. I was going to bring up this one because, like Jake said, and like Gosabrez7 says, it was wildly rewarding as a viewer who watches everything.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
And I think it's interesting that we're getting a series that does lean more towards the people who have watched everything.
Yeah, it was rewarding, but like I think for me specifically, more so than rewarding, it was cathartic and satisfying because we're finally getting over that hump of, okay, Ahsoka needs to get over this. Like she needs to snap out of it and become who she needs to become to like keep going with this season of television.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, I'm glad we're through that. It feels like we're entering a new phase of the story.
Yeah.
Also, Scotty Heron says Rookies is season 1, episode 5 of the Clone Wars. That's a really good episode.
I don't remember that one.
It's like
I'm
the
sure it was
first
good,
the first episode is pretty clone centric, but this one was all about Echo and Fives and Heavy and their crew. It was great.
Gotcha.
Jonathan Sky, thanks so much for the next one. I'm baffled why I keep seeing negativity and bashing of Ahsoka. I'm loving the show. I don't get what's up with all of the hate. I have seen this much hate today.
I know, me too. Well,
but I've also taken 2 naps today because I am sick. So I haven't been.
Alex has been
online.
a napping machine today. I'm sure it's out there. We do our best to stay away from the negative sides of the fandom, like the overly negative sides. But honestly, general consensus, at least from what I see, has been very positive.
I would agree. Overwhelmingly positive for this series so far, and it's been great to enjoy. Like I like Mollie said, I feel like we aren't enjoying it on the same level as a lot of those people, but it's really, really nice to just see a bunch of people loving something.
I think
together.
Also us being used to YouTube and seeing comments on YouTube, there's like a constant 10% level of just insanely negative comments on stuff. So like we're used to that 10% of bad negativity just always being there. And I tend to just kind of ignore it. So It could be that too.
People saying it's empty fan service or along those lines. I mean, like that has definitely happened in Star Wars before. I don't feel that at all. Like it makes sense for Anakin to be in this. If this were Rebels season 5, which it very much is a continuation, like no one would call it fan service. It's just a continuation of a story with characters that already exist. So that doesn't make sense to me.
At times, I can see how it could come off as Filoni only caring about Ahsoka, but I think so far he's done a really good job at making this season feel like we're getting angles from everyone. It does feel more like Rebel season 5 than just a story about Ahsoka, aside from just this episode. But we still got a lot of Hera and Jason in this one. So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I just should nap more and not be on Twitter. I had a pretty good day, all things considered. Jesus Fernandez, thanks for the next question. Ahsoka was forced to survive from situations she was supposed to die in Mortis and in Malachor. This is the Force giving her the chance to choose, and she finally chooses to live by her own choice. That's interesting. That it, like
to survive situations that she. Oh, I see.
She died in Mortis, and Anakin brought her back. She was going to die on Malachor, but Ezra saved her.
That's true. I mean, she could be up to this point living her life as if she knows she's not supposed to be there, or like she thinks her time has passed. What does she have left to offer? I mean, we have been kind of getting that vibe from her. But yeah, to get her to choose life was a big step. But I like that.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
Mr. Shu, amazing episode. I was nearly crying when they did the Clone Wars flashbacks. Really got in your face about how young Ahsoka and Anakin were at the time. Ahsoka especially struck me that I was like, man, like I knew she was 14, 15. I think she's 15 when the Clone Wars start. But seeing it as like, I think a 16-year-old actor, that hit me harder than an animated model of like, yep, that's a child.
Yeah, and like we've gotten used to seeing older Ahsoka now. So seeing her age back so far, it's like, oh, and then the line of like her saying, they were following my orders. I'm the reason they're killed. That was some intense stuff for a kid that age to be going through, Jedi or not.
Yep.
So she was just a baby.
I'm just a baby. Mick Hoffmeyer, this episode was one of the best, and because they're not praised enough, the Kiners pulled no punches this series. The little use of Kanan's theme when he was mentioned was perfect. Also, Hayden and the Clone Wars armor. That's something that, like, I feel like Star Wars fans, including myself, just take the Kiners for granted. It's like, we always know that they're going to be great. And so sometimes we forget to shout them out, that they deserve it. I love their music.
I can't wait to get like a full soundtrack of this show. Just because like I'm kind of bad at trying to listen to mostly the music until like my third or fourth listen. And usually it's when we're doing our commentaries, when we have the headphones on, is when I can really hear it. But yeah, they're all bangers. They're killing it.
Kiners are all bangers all the time.
All the time.
Darth Nicholas, thank you for the next one. I felt absolutely ecstatic seeing Rex make his live-action debut and hearing him voiced by Tim Morrison. If that's all we get of Rex and Ahsoka, I will happily take it. I do think that's probably all we're going to get.
Yeah, I do too. I loved his line, the last bit of his line where he was like, let's go. That just sounded like Tamir Morrison about to go film something.
He's just having the time of his life.
He's just having the best time.
I do hope we see Rex in the future. I don't know if they're going to get to him in this series or season or what have you, but I would like to see a very specific clone that's not Boba Fett, like a clone trooper, having Rex be still a part of the war. He'd be very old, but whatever.
Yeah, if we could have gotten to see that scene of her and Rex hugging, like from Rebels.
Great scene.
I love that scene so much.
And I'll pull up, this one's relevant. The presence of non-CGI clones gave a genuine feeling of grit, realness, and humanity that was often lacking in the prequels. Yeah, it's fun to see all these years later, now they're like, we're just going to have people playing the clones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when you see the clones in live action, there's real people under those suits. You see them running. It just hits you a little bit harder. Like, they're human. They're not just these suits of armor being sent off to war. They're like Yeah. I was like, that running looks hard.
Running in sand is hard. Gio Flores, what's up? And thanks for the super chat. When Ahsoka said, "This is the Clone Wars," and Anakin says, "No kidding. So fantastically done. Hayden killed the Matt cadence."
Oh, I loved the exposition dump for the Khajiits. Oh my gosh, this is the Clone Wars. This was one of our first missions.
But it worked well. Like, sometimes that stuff can come off as very stilted, but this was Ahsoka genuinely being shocked and being like, "Wait, where am I?"
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree with Gio. Very well done. Very fun moment. Kitty, thanks for being a Biggs mega fan for a month. I said, that has to be Annie. No one, even the Force, could mimic his sass that perfectly. Also, I appreciate your spookies, Molly.
Thank you. It's officially spooky season. I don't care what day of September it is.
Molly put a new collar on Hilo. He was in here, like, all up in my business right before we started to stream, and then he left. I was like, people want to see you, Hilo, but the new collar has, like, little bones and bats on it, and it glows in the dark. It's very cute.
Mm-hmm.
Miguel Sotelo, thank you. I think Anakin is part of the living Force. This is his Force ghost reaching out to her. He is continuing to redeem himself even after death. Plus, I don't need an explanation on how he got there.
I don't either. And I like the idea that this is still part of Anakin's redemption, too. Like, he's helping continue what has to be done. Like, Ahsoka was his responsibility, and I guess he knows what she's up to. They're all the Force ghosts are just like up there watching everybody. It's kind of creepy.
It's very Deus Ex Machina, like they just come in when they're needed. They could come in at any point and do anything, but
yeah. But it is, I like that it was heavily implied that, yeah, she died. She lost the battle.
Yeah.
As he
Trust me,
put it.
You lost.
Trust me, you lost. And this, I like that this is a way for him to reach out and like be like, you got to get back in this fight. You're not done yet.
And to go back to what Kitty said, yeah, the sass was off the charts. The banter between both of them felt very natural, very much like the Clone Wars. Great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Sim, what's up? And thanks for the super chat. What I saw last night was a common in-depth theme of letting go of your past and your mistakes between Filoni's Ahsoka episode and Rian Johnson's Last Jedi. How would you compare and contrast the two? Yeah, I felt Last Jedi vibes as well, in the sense that Ahsoka didn't run off and hide on an island, but she kind of made an island of herself. Mm-hmm. She refused to make any attachments or have any connections with people because she was afraid of what that would mean for her, especially if she just views herself as a weapon. But seeing her come out the other side and like immediately hugging Jason and joking with him and smiling and trusting the Force again. Yeah, that was good to see.
Yeah. Luke had lived a much, I don't want to say a fuller life, but like by the time he got out there and by the time he was found by Rey, I think he had kind of made up his mind a little more than Ahsoka had. And I don't think if Luke died in a fight, anyone would bring him back and be like, no, you're Luke the White now. You have more to do.
I'm glad that like he did make that choice for himself at the end. I would say that he kind of goes through a Luke the White transformation, but it results in his death. I was going to say something else. Luke, I think, had more guilt on his shoulders. Ahsoka, I don't think, felt any responsibility for Anakin's fall. I think she was just afraid that something similar would happen to her. Luke felt responsible for creating a new Darth Vader. And so I think that's why he just completely cut himself off.
Mm-hmm.
Ice, what's up? And thank you for the super chat. Phenomenal episode. Dave's best live action work yet. Everything was so well done. The action, visuals, music, the character growth, loved it all. I was totally blown away and honestly sobbed through most of the episode. I agree. I think Dave continues. If you compare his episodes of Ahsoka back to the Book of Boba Fett, back to like the Gunslinger, I think he has continued to grow and evolve as a live action director. I was already impressed with his episode 1 of Ahsoka, and I really liked the weird and trippy visuals in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to Ahsoka and Anakin and their relationship, Filoni is like, oh, I got this 110%. So I had no doubts for whether or not this episode was going to be good. The dialogue is still a little clunky, not going to lie, but that's okay. Like, we know these characters pretty well by now. We're just like eating up whatever they give us.
It does feel, I mean, clunky dialogue is part of Star Wars sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
It always has been.
Yeah. Like you said earlier, he learned from George, who was historically bad at writing dialogue.
Oh, by his own admission, he's like, I hate writing dialogue. Darth Nicholas, thanks for another question. This was by far Hayden Christensen's best performance in all of Star Wars, and I thought he captured the personality of Matt Lanter's Anakin perfectly. Flawless execution. I think I'll still give Revenge of the Sith the edge, but it was really fun seeing him take on another version of the character this time around.
This was pretty on par with him in the suit in Obi-Wan when his helmet got cracked. That was like such a raw, dark, emotional moment for Anakin as Vader. This was cool because we got to see both sides of him at various ages and stages of his life.
Yeah.
I guess I agree. I might edge out Revenge of the Sith just by a hair, just because we get to see more from him in that movie.
But yeah, I mean, just in general, he's great. He's been doing awesome work in Ahsoka, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's just been fun to have him back.
Yeah. And he's having a blast.
Yeah, I hope so.
Getting to go back to a role that he got so much flack for, and like knock it out of the park. So cool.
Neil Adamson, thank you for the next set here. I think people forget that the last time we saw Ahsoka before this show, was the first time she came to terms with Anakin's fall. We hadn't seen how she's processed that until now. Because Anakin kept yelling at her anytime she brought up their part in death and destruction, I think the lesson was that she has spent too much time and effort focused on that as their legacy. Where their real legacy is one of redemption and overcoming trauma. He wants her to live her life purposefully and optimistically, not with trepidation and disassociation. He wants her to care, to fight, to live. I agree. Well said. I think that's the lesson as well, that she was letting her fears of adding to that legacy hold her back from training Sabine the first time and the second time, from training Grogu, from making friends with anyone, making any real deep relationships. I think she was afraid that just the worst possible thing would happen. And so she just didn't do it.
You'd think for someone who lives as long as she does would get past that. But that just goes to show you that everyone deals with this kind of stuff.
It's like, it has been 10 or so years since she found out about Anakin's fall, but since we haven't seen her since then, it's like, even though the timeline is like, you should have maybe processed this earlier. Well, this is when we're seeing it.
It reminds me, I did write down the line that Anakin says, like, you're more than that because I'm more than that. And I love that line so much because you can tell that Anakin has put in the work to acknowledge all the bad stuff he's done, but also the good stuff. And now he's come full circle. He's been redeemed. He's helping Ahsoka as part of his redemption. And he's like trying to shake her and be like, you are more than a legacy. You're not dead yet.
It reminded me of Ted Lasso season 3 when they're talking about Nate and Ted tells Beard, I hope we're all either judged on our best day or our worst day. Obviously, like Anakin, in real world talk, he had a lot of worse days and did a bunch of terrible things, but like Anakin and his relationship with Ahsoka was more than just that. And that's all like Ahsoka can see in her future is the dark and death of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Fernandez, thanks for another super chat. I got chills in the ending. It feels like an important point in Star Wars, expanding the universe, going new places, probably one of the most important moments in the saga, going to a new galaxy. I'm so excited to finally get there next Tuesday. I know.
I'm so glad that they finally came to the realization of using the Purrgil. They got it done in the end of this episode. Like when Ahsoka gets out of all this and they save her, I was like, all right, that's probably the end of the episode and we'll see what they decide to do afterwards. But I'm so glad I was wrong and that they went straight into Ahsoka gets a great idea and goes and asks the Purrgil for a ride, and then they are off immediately. Like she's like, nope, we can't think about this because I don't know if it's going to work yet, so we just got to do it.
Yeah, they didn't save the full extent of her change for another week. They were just like, she has changed from this. She's ready to go. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Tim Sim, thanks for another question. Also, is it safe to say that this is the Anakin after being redeemed by Luke in Return of the Jedi? I think so. Like we said, it's up for debate. I don't know that we're ever going to get a full answer, but I'm choosing to believe that was Anakin helping Ahsoka. A lot of tough love in that lesson, but
yeah.
But that's what I think.
I feel like that's what she needed to really snap out of it. And it had to be from him.
Darth Nicholas, thank you for another super chat. I love how the false rumors of both an Anakin-Ahsoka duel on Mustafar and the potential introduction of a multiverse in Star Wars in the World Between Worlds just served as cover for those awesome Clone Wars flashbacks. That's why I stay away from leaks and rumors.
I didn't even know that was a rumor.
I had heard like whispers of it, and I just got away from it as much as I could. But I think that was adding to my anxiety of like, oh, I hope they don't do any multiverse stuff.
Mm.
But Trevor Nesbitt, thank you for the next one. Possibility of Anakin being the new Mortis father. Also, Kevin Kiner Score did so much for this episode too. This man needs to take over Star Wars scoring.
I love how people are still, myself included, are still trying to fit the Mortis arc into this story, and I just don't think it's going to happen. Like, I don't think Filoni is going to go there with the general audience watching this show.
Not yet. I hope we see Mortis again someday, but I don't think...
I do too.
I don't think it's going to happen in this season.
But as for being the new Mortis father, I don't know that would happen unless there were a son and a daughter too.
Ahsoka could be the new daughter.
Yeah, maybe when she finally decides to kick the bucket.
Well, I mean, I think she would ascend to some greater being or something.
Right.
But who knows? Alec Figuera, thank you for the next question. I think Anakin looking around when he says, "Trust me, you lost," is a subtle way of explaining that she entered the world between worlds after becoming comatose from her fall into the water. Yeah, I think that's how she got there too, like a spirit or astral projection.
Yeah, that was like seeing the light at the end of the tunnel kind of situation. Like you flatline on the table or something like that. I think that's what happened.
The world between worlds might be the Star Wars version of the Pearly Gates.
Yeah. Ice, thanks for the next one. The only thing I felt was missing was some time with Sabine and the villains, but that's okay. Hopefully we get it next week. This was absolutely stellar. Yeah, I really hope that the next episode we start and spend most of the time in that other galaxy from Balin and Shin and Sabine and Morgan's point of view.
I would have been totally fine if after the Purrgil jumped, we just cut for one scene with Balin and the others, and maybe they come across a Star Destroyer, and that's it. Like, that would have been a fun little tease, but I think they wanted the episode to end on a hopeful and optimistic note, just like Ahsoka is feeling again. So that was probably the right way to go, but I'm anxious for some Thrawn. And agreed on Balin and Shin as well. Johnny, thank you for the next question. When the Clone Wars movie came out, we all said, wait, Anakin had a Padawan? Now it's, wait, Ahsoka had a Padawan? Is this why she declined to train Grogu? I think she declined to train Grogu because of what she says in the episode. That Grogu had a strong attachment to Din, and she has seen what that can do to a Jedi, the best of us. Like, she's talking about Anakin, so I think we are seeing that continue to pay off here, where she is just afraid to take on a student and really commit to it.
Yeah. Also, I think at the time, Grogu wasn't ready to be handed off and trained by a stranger. Like, she could sense that in him. And she's like, no, this is your kid. You can't just dump him off at Jedi camp, which is not what I am.
Yeah, and I think I agree that maybe Grogu would have trained with her for a while if she were open to it, but it would have resulted in the same thing.
Whereas Luke is like biting at the opportunity to train because he's about to start this new academy, and he's like, yeah, okay, a warm-up? Let's do it.
The most adorable child ever? We can hang out. Okay.
Let's just see Mando bring Grogu to me to train. He'll never see that little green baby again.
I know.
I'll tell you that much.
That's a kidnapping, Molly.
Nuh-uh. He would have so much fun here.
You're going to have so much fun here. I'll never let you go. Vader X Bricks, thanks for the next question. Since Anakin and Ahsoka were on Ryloth's surface during the battle, could this make parts of the whole Republic Heroes 2009 video game canon? I have not played that video game, so
If you haven't, I sure as hell haven't.
Molly, you played that one? So I don't know what you're referencing specifically, but if they had a mission on Ryloth, then sure, we could presume that that's what that was.
I just assumed it was the one from the Clone Wars.
I can't remember if they actually set foot on Ryloth in that. Like, Mace Windu did most of the on the ground stuff, and Anakin and Ahsoka were in the air, but it could have been a different part. I know Obi-Wan had boots on the ground. I can't remember. But like, they went to Ryloth early in the Clone Wars, and they had a fight there.
Darth Nicholas has the next one. I also like how the Clone Wars flashback on Ryloth served as a nice self-criticism with the callback to all the joking that happened in the Clone Wars while all the clone troopers were dying at war. Yeah, I mean, it was a kid's show.
They had to keep it kind of light.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of death in that show.
This was a good opportunity to recognize just how much death there was and to show what it was doing to little baby Ahsoka.
It reminded me of a line from Dr. Cox in Scrubs where he talks about how doctors can be kind of callous. They can make jokes about patients and stuff, but that's because they're around death and sickness all day. And people have to do what they need to get by, and sometimes that means making jokes that from an outside perspective it's like, that's not cool, but that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
Miranda here, thanks for the next one. I'm late. Oh my god, this episode was so amazing. I loved this episode most because it used the Clone Wars and World Between Worlds to deliver Ahsoka's belly of the whale moment per hero with 1,000 faces, and then she literally enters a whale.
I knew that there was some sort of version of that in mythology or a hero. I haven't read Hero with a Thousand Faces, but I knew that there was a connection there.
Between Jonah and Pinocchio, I'm like, there has to be.
Yeah, and I just love that it is literally that. Let's get in the mouth of a whale. It's perfection. Bones McCoy, thank you for the next super chat. Since Jason didn't have Kanan or Auntie Ahsoka around to teach him about the Force, it was great seeing Hera doing her best to open her mind, listening at the cliff with Jason. Good mom vibes. I could not agree more. I loved their mother-son relationship in this whole episode. Like, when he's like, can I leave the ship now? And she like takes a second. She's looking around. She's like, yeah, okay. But she does have a moment where she's like, not now, Jason. But then she recognizes that Jason is having a moment that she needs to pay attention to. And yeah.
That was the most I've ever been annoyed with Carson Teva. Where like he's like, General. I was like, shut up, Carson. Let Jason talk. But I love Carson Teva. So I felt bad saying that, but that moment made me laugh. And I agree. I love that Hera took the time to take him seriously.
Mm-hmm. And that we've heard Jason say once before he wants to be a Jedi, and she said, I know, Jason, I know. Like, she's not hampering his abilities, him using them. She's not telling him not to. Like, she's allowing him to do that and embracing it and trying her best to also connect. And she hears what he hears. And that was like such a beautiful moment.
I wonder if there's an element of her not wanting him to train fully. Like when he's walking off with Hu Yang and he's like, will you train me? He's like, no.
I'm sure
teach me to build a lightsaber? No.
I'm sure she'd rather him be a pilot, but that happens a lot when parents have kids. You know, one parent will want them to follow in their footsteps, and they end up following the other parent's footsteps, and they're like, oh man.
Yeah.
I lost this one. Oops.
Kai Peterson, thank you for the next one. Think we'll see World Between Worlds again in live action. Loved what we got and would love to see more. Probably no time for more this season, though. I hope so. Like, I'm always on the fence. The World Between Worlds is one of my favorite things, but every time we go back to it, it's going to make me a little nervous. But, like, I think it's so cool. So I hope we see it again. And I'd love to see it like we saw it in Rebels with the portals and stuff.
We have theorized also that Balin wants to get to Ezra because Balin might know that Ezra has a connection to the World Between Worlds, and Balin might want to use the World Between Worlds for whatever reason. So if that is the case, we could see it again.
Yeah, and it would be good to set it up now halfway through the season if we were going to see it again and she and Balin fight in there or something.
Yeah.
And if they can't get back to Cetos or the main galaxy with the Purrgil, this time they could use the World Between Worlds.
Yeah. I guess my gut feeling is that we won't see it again, but I'm also like, I want to go back.
Yeah.
Another super chat from Miranda here. I think Hayden was absolutely perfect, and I also think that this is a great build-off of Fact-Pov Mike Chin's story and lets Anakin fulfill some of his regret and unfinished business. I haven't read that story yet,
That's
and
good.
I need
It's
to.
really good.
I should just go straight to that story and read it.
It's funny. I had a video about that story ready to go. So when he popped up in last week's episode, I was like, huzzah! I'll schedule it for, I think I had it come out on Monday or something. But yeah, it kind of gets into how he was able to become a Force Ghost without training and all that. Power Rangers Explained. What's up? And thanks for the super chat. Ariana Greenblatt is also in Stuck in the Middle. I have never seen that.
Me neither.
But I'm sure she's great in it. She was great in Barbie. She was great in this. I liked her as Gamora. She didn't have much screen time in Avengers Infinity War, but I liked her.
Loved it. Oh, what's up, PLD? Thanks for the super chat. Did a podcast on it, then watched it again and cried again. The Kiners are the secret sauce. I'm so happy Hayden got to just shine. I bet we see a Force Ghost Anakin at the end of the season. Much love.
I really hope the Kiners get to do Filoni's movie.
Me too. They are just knocking it out of the park. And if you're not following them on social media, you definitely should, because they put out like a little teaser of the music from this episode, and I don't know, they might put more little behind the scenes tidbits out, but
They're fun to follow. They seem real nice.
yeah.
We've never met them, but they like all of Mollie's posts and stuff. So
They liked me and Chase's Spider-Man outfits from Dragon Con. I was like, stop. Don't talk to me.
stop it. Don't look at me.
You're too nice.
Saki Sautomi, thank you for the next super chat. I think her lightsabers were on her hips as the water began to rise. Yeah, this was from an hour and a half ago when we were talking about whether or not she still had her lightsabers. But she did.
That's just one of those weird world between world things that they just kind of like, maybe the will of the Force was like, oh crap, she needs those.
Wait, yeah,
Quick.
put them back. Put them back.
Put those back.
Darth Nicholas, thanks for the next one. The fact that Ahsoka looks younger than she did in the Clone Wars does a nice job of reminding us that the Jedi Order's moral hypocrisy and the fact that they use child soldiers like Cal, Kane, all the Padawans. It really made it stand out more as a quote human child teenager and not as just an animated model.
Yeah, definitely read Rise of the Red Blade by Delilah Dawson. That just came out. It does a really good job at showing some of the internal dialogue of kids at the Jedi Order training and then being shoved into the role of military leader and getting promoted to Jedi Knight just because they need military leaders. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And Miranda here with another very generous super chat. Thank you so much. I don't think anything that happened in the World Between Worlds Dream Vision counts. The Ahsoka's Dagobah Cave moment. Wait, it's Ahsoka's Dagobah Cave moment, but I don't assume anything about World Between World physics. It's between time and space. So a question, what would give a nosebleed going forward? See, now that you made that joke, people are going to be pushing it like, okay,
yeah,
what is going to push you over the edge?
Nothing in here gave me a nosebleed. I was happy about that. It didn't twist my head in knots. I don't know if they just introduced more time travel weirdness into the World Between Worlds, like with new rules, that would give me a nosebleed, but nothing they did here sent me over the edge. And yeah, like, I think it could go either way. It might all be a vision. It might be just in Ahsoka's head. I kind of want it to be real, so that's what I'm going with, but I can't say that definitively. Ice says the next two here. I called it, Molly, didn't I? I was like, oh, Ice is going to have something to say about the New Republic. I'm officially done with Mon Mothma and the New Republic. They won't send anyone to look into that missing hyperdrive core or the possibility the greatest Imperial military leader might return. But they'll send a fleet to arrest Hera when she finally decides to take action where they won't. I just can't with it anymore. Even if they wake up by the end, it's too little, too late for me.
She had no proof. Mon Mothma needs proof that there is a mission to show all the other senators to get approval. So I get it.
I do think that they could do more. Molly, you said this when we were walking Hilo earlier. Like, I wish we got a little more with the New Republic and what they're dealing with, because we're only seeing Mon Mothma chime in with Hamato Ziono, and like we're not seeing any of the good stuff. And I think it would be nice to have a reminder that these are all the good guys. They're flawed, yes, but seeing a little more of their perspective. But yeah, they're very much burying their heads in the sand. They don't want another war. There isn't any real proof of it. and Hera defied orders. So like we see Hera as the hero because we know everything that is real and what's happening, but the rest of the New Republic is probably worried that she's going to spark another war because there, from the Aftermath trilogy, there was an Imperial remnant and there were kind of lines drawn in the quote unquote sand. So if they're crossing those lines, it could be seen as aggressive.
I don't know. I can't fault Mon Mothma for a lot of things just because we know so much about her life at this point, and she's tired. You know she's tired at this point. And she's like, I need proof. With no proof, like we just got a rogue general on our hands to everybody else here.
Yeah.
So
Also, I'm not like trying to roast you or anything,
but
but like, don't worry about that. It's not a negative thing. It's just like the same thing with Darth Nicholas. When we saw all the clones, I was like, oh, Darth Nicholas is going to be happy. And
I was like, I hope Darth Nicholas is okay and he didn't have a heart attack.
And when I saw Mon Mothma pop up on the screen, I was like, that's gonna add fuel to that fire.
Mm-hmm. Liam Logston has the next super chat. Hey, Alex and Mollie, in certain point of view, I'll tell Jake and Brian you said hi. What an episode. I think it was spectacular and I could not ask for more. I love that the world between worlds seemed like a kind of purgatory and she got to choose to continue or to rest, giving her some agency. Yeah, this was like a little save moment in a video game. Like, do you want to keep going or do you want to rest?
I think we made the joke last week that Morai basically gave her a 1-up. It's kind of like in Scott Pilgrim, he dies at one point, but he had a 1-up from earlier in the movie, and so he got to come back and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. That's the world between worlds is just a video game. My nose starts to bleed. Neil Adamson, thank you so much for another very generous super chat. I've seen it mentioned that the world between worlds is simply an extension of Force visions or experiences like in the various caves and isn't as difficult to access as we thought. Excuse me. Examples: Ezra talking to Yoda, Kanan's knighting, Ahsoka and Anakin's Vader vision. Thoughts? It definitely does. Now that you mention it, it sounds like Yoda can just pop in and out of it.
And I think that's very much earned after how long he's lived. You know, he's done almost all the training he can possibly do. I do like the idea of this, but I also feel like Ezra talking to Yoda, Kanan's knighting, Ahsoka's Anakin Vader vision, it's all after the fall of the Jedi Order, and there are very few Jedi left, and I think that has more to do with why they're able to access this as much as they do. I mean, ultimately it's just for story purposes, but I feel like when the remaining Jedi can find these hotspots, I think it is a little easier for them to access these visions and portals.
Every time Ezra experienced it, entered it, it was at the Lothal Temple, but his second time in there, before we knew what it was, Yoda was just there, like calling in from Dagobah, sitting on a log. So
he was bored.
I think there probably is something to that once you know about it, once you can connect with the Force well enough that you can access it. I don't know if Yoda could access it the same way we've seen Ezra and Ahsoka do it, where you're walking along the pathways and everything. But that, yeah, we know so little about it that it's hard to say anything definitively. But I think you're right that it's the portals might be easy mode, but Yoda's on expert grandmaster level difficulty, literally. And
well, yeah. Also, I think Dagobah is said to be a very, very force heavy planet. So it could have something to do with him being on Dagobah too.
Mm-hmm.
Like he can just sit on a log and like Zoom with whoever he wants to.
That log just happens to be the access point.
That log had a child.
That log had a child. Crafter Anonymous, thank you for the next one. I adore all Star Wars, but this is the first time live action content made me feel the same pure magic and joy as when I was a kid, and I'm so thankful for it. That's awesome. Your profile picture would suggest that that's all true.
I love that. And I'm so happy seeing that same reaction from so many people and friends of ours online. It's a really exciting time.
I find it so worth it to read and watch everything Star Wars because I don't love it all. I like it all. Most of it I'm just like, yeah, that was fun. It was a good time. I'm glad I watched or read it. But then every once in a while something comes along that just like really hits me like this. So I'm glad you're experiencing that.
Trevor Nesbitt, thanks for the next one. In regards to the New Republic stuff, I think it's doing a great job in keeping in line with how inefficient they were in Bloodlines.
Yeah.
I have not read Bloodlines.
That's just the story of the New Republic. Like,
yeah.
It's knowing where it all heads in the sequel trilogy. It's like you can't make them all that competent.
Yeah, I mean, I feel
does
like
put Mon Mothma in a difficult position.
After getting past 2 Death Stars and the Emperor, they're probably like, we got this. We're on easy mode now. Like, there can't be anything left. And we can just take our time and trying to rebuild.
Surely no one's building a super weapon out of an entire planet.
Surely they won't try that tired crap again.
They're not going to build another one, but bigger. Ike Redsum, thanks for the next one. Don't get me wrong, I loved the scene, but I couldn't help but giggle a little bit when Anakin was just casually like, is that what this is about? After Ahsoka alluded to his past as Vader. I've seen a lot of people joking about that today. And I mean, it's funny of just, he does very casually throw it away. Like, don't sweep that under the rug, Anakin.
Well, I think it's fair for him to say, just because he's like, this is about you. I've gone through my journey. I'm dead and gone, been redeemed. You still got lots of stuff to do. This isn't about me.
Yeah.
And my mistakes.
I dealt with my stuff. I threw Palpatine over a cliff. Like, I did my job.
When in reality, we just don't have the time that it would take to really get into everything wrong that Anakin did.
Yeah. Would have been a long discussion.
Ice, thanks for the next one. No matter how many stories they write about best intentions with their stances and decisions, it only makes it worse and devalues everything the rebels sacrificed more and more. My one issue post Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, like that I think stems from the sequel trilogy and doing like Starkiller Base and the New Republic in the First Order, or the Resistance in the First Order instead of the New Republic in the First Order. I think that just puts this era in a rough spot, but oh well, it is what it is. Ice also says they don't have to be perfect. That's not reasonable, but they could be at least worth what it took to take down the Empire and recover from it. You have to actually try to recover from it. Oh well. I mean, they do last longer than the Empire did, so there is that. Not that it wasn't perfect, and we see in Bloodlines that it's not the best, but the New Republic lasted longer than the Empire, so good for them.
Mm-hmm. And then it goes on to say, all that said, I'm happy Brendan Wayne's character is still around. After so much time under the helmet, it's great to have his face on screen.
I was also relieved because I couldn't tell if he died last episode or not. And yeah. I'm glad that he made it.
Agreed. I'm always happy when the people that are doing the real hard work, like the stunt doubles and stuff that are wearing these helmets and doing all the hard stuff, it's always nice to see them get an actual face on camera role.
I think he had lines this time too. The subtitles credit them as Carson, but I'm pretty sure it was Lander.
Is that what's his name?
Lieutenant Lander.
Lieutenant Lander. Okay.
Bones McCoy, thanks for another one. In 20 years, Ahsoka will be the one to teach Rose Tico about saving what we love instead of fighting what we hate. I think that was in reference of Ahsoka changing her attitude to being like, I will save Sabine and Ezra instead of like, I will stop Thrawn. But yeah, I agree with that.
Rose
it's
is
the same philosophy.
Yeah, Rose is just that sweet of a human being, and she just knows that that's the right thing to do. Billy P, thanks for the super chat. Hey guys, were the cameos forced at all? Because wait. Okay. I had to read it in my head first. Because a so-called hater says it's heresy. For me, they live rent-free in my skull. Dave once said, wait, Dave, once again, Balin us?
Like bailing?
Bailing? For real, thanks for doing this. Love y'all. Billy
Well
is
done,
the king
Billy.
of puns. So I didn't expect anything less. I'm sorry I struggled through that as much as I did. I'm not proud of that.
I can't read or write. I don't know how to
I can't read. I don't know how to freaking read.
Home Run Production, thanks for the next question. Would Thrawn still be for the Empire if the one of the reasons he joined them was because they were the powerhouse at the time, but now they're not? Well, to Ice's point, I think if he shows up and sees what the New Republic is about, I think
They're
he
like,
would still
"Oh,
be for the Empire.
These bozos are trying to take over. They're doing a terrible job."
But I mean, I think Thrawn is also more of the mindset of like military first. And that's what's most important to him, where the New Republic has demilitarized largely. And I don't think he's going to convince them otherwise. I think he will, because the story dictates it, he's going to be pro Imperial Remnant. And I don't know that they're going to address that in the show. And Timothy Zahn will come along later and fill in those gaps.
Also, I feel like that's a perfect opportunity for Thrawn to be like, see what happens when I'm gone for 10 years? Y'all just mess everything up. The Empire failed because I wasn't here.
I told you the Death Star was a bad idea. You built 2?
You did what now? He's like, we have all these Star Destroyers and all this firepower, and you thought your big old Death Star was going to solve all your problems. Well, it ain't. You know what will? Art.
Art and TIE Defenders.
Ingavea, thank you for the next one. Greetings from Savannah, Georgia. In my opinion, sea at Cetos, mountain at Lethal, and cave at Dagobah are the same. I bet you were...
Yeah, like all Nexies at the Force.
Yeah.
I bet you were at the Arctic Monkeys show Monday.
Wait, the Arctic Monkeys show?
A band.
I also got wet there. We were not.
I stayed dry at home.
Yeah. We were still recovering from a wedding that we were at, which Alex is still recovering from.
That's where I got sick. The worst wedding favor ever.
That's true. They didn't do wedding favors, did they? No, they had koozies. Never mind.
Yeah, we took more koozies than we needed. I think on accident. Sorry, Graham.
I don't think Graham's watching this.
Bones McCoy, thanks for another super chat. Gee whiz, I wonder who could have taught Ahsoka about Force Echo. My buddy and I hoping to see a 42-year-old ginger man with a double saber in BD1.
Oh.
Someday. Maybe someday.
I kind of... I agree. I think that's a good point, but I don't know if you're joking or serious about that, but for me, it's hard to see people continuously be like, well, how can they do that? Who taught them that? Like, Ahsoka's been around for so long. Why couldn't she just learn that on her own?
She must have, but it's because they straight up in the Clone Wars made it like a very rare ability, and now everyone seems to be able to use it. I'm just telling you.
I can't roll my eyes harder.
You asked, and I'm giving you the answer.
Well,
that's why people are like, well, hold on.
The man himself, Filoni, who can do no wrong in so many people's eyes, is like, just kidding. Ahsoka can do it because she's the best.
I'm perfectly willing to accept that people can learn that ability. It's just that Quinlan Vos, Cal Kestis, people like that they were born naturally gifted it. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have to try.
Right. Also, I think that there's an element of like Cal can't control it even sometimes. Whereas Ahsoka seems like she has a better handle on it. So it might be a blessing and a curse for Cal.
She'd be a great detective.
That's what Quinlan Vos was doing. Like that's
Detective Ahsoka. Let's get that spinoff. None of this Jedi stuff, just detecting.
Look, Trail of Shadows, if you haven't read that comic, it's a noir Jedi private eye detective story, and it's awesome. It's one of my favorite Star Wars comics.
I need to read that.
It's very good.
Johnny, thank you for the next one. Thanks, Alex and Darth Mollie. Do you think the Ghost and the New Republic fleet were too close to the Purrgil and they perhaps jumped all together? I don't think that they got pulled into the jump. However, it was funny when, I forget her name, but she was like, evasive maneuvers, let's get out of the way. And then they were just there.
They just went straight into the middle of the pod.
And like, they did have to use evasive maneuvers for the one big one. They were kind of like, let's get out of the way.
No, I don't think anyone else went along. Like Ahsoka and Hera had this little goodbye. I don't think they would have written that in if it were like the start of next episode. Oh, never mind. We're all here, actually. Also, it wouldn't make sense for Ahsoka to need to be literally inside the mouth of the whale if they all could have just been swept along. So yeah, I think the New Republic will all be waiting back on Cetos.
I think so too.
Ice, thanks for another one. I feel so bad for Carson. He was so lost. Talk about getting tossed in the deep end. Hera seriously owes him a drink at the end of all this.
Oh my God,
That was my favorite small moment. Paul Sun-Hyung Lee delivered the simple line of, okay. Like, perfectly.
And then his whole thing of like distracting the fleet was hilarious. He does comedy so well in like a very nonchalant way. And he's like, eventually he's like, okay, but you're not gonna believe me. Like, you asked for it.
If you've never watched Kim's Convenience, he is great in that.
So good. Ice, thanks for the next one.
I feel so...
Oh, sorry. Ultima Bendison, thanks for the next super chat. Perhaps this new galaxy will not have any force at all, seeing as it probably does not have a wellspring of life force planet, similar to the effects of the Salamari in Heir to the Empire. It could, and that could be kind of why we've suspected that maybe Ezra has lost his abilities in the Force after the length of 10 years, but we don't know that for sure.
I don't think I like that. I feel like the entire Star Wars universe is going to have the Force because life creates it. So maybe there would be no life out there to create the Force. I guess there's a chance for something like that, but I expect we'll still see the Force used out there.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see what it all looks like.
There's certainly a chance that they have their own wellspring of life Force planet.
That would be interesting if it's like
a sun in the middle of a galaxy. Like every galaxy might have its own.
That would be interesting. Brandon Dockham, thank you for the next one. Can we perhaps entertain the idea that Ezra died?
No, can't do it. I can't do it.
I don't think that after all of the struggle to find him, like that would be so insanely tragic. It's possible. I don't think they're going to do it.
If he did die, he's just chilling in the world between worlds somewhere, waiting for Ezra for Ahsoka to pick him up. Neil Adamson has another super chat here. Thank you so much, Neil. How do you expect them to show Thrawn analyzing the New Republic through art/culture, etc.? He's been gone for so long. Will he have time to show his talents on screen before taking out the New Republic fleet?
I think he could very quickly probably look at even the starships, like their capital ships, and discern something about where they were created and by who. And so here's the weaknesses. Like, I think there's any number of ways they could quickly show him out thinking and out maneuvering them.
Yeah, I mean, like any other military leader, he'll be briefed and updated on the bullet points of what's happened while he was gone. And
that Morgan brought Mon Mothma's Instagram with her. So she's like, here you go. Here's everything you need to know. And he's just...
What they don't know is she's got a private Instagram that's got all the party pics on it.
Oh, Mothma. Now that Perrin is dead and gone.
Now that Perrin is hopefully dead and gone. I do hope we get lots of juicy moments of Thrawn using his big old brain to figure stuff out.
I do hope I don't think they're going to do it like every episode in future stories with him, but I want to see him do some art stuff.
Give me that perhaps.
Tin Man, thank you for the next one. Thoughts on the meaning of Shadow Warrior?
I was hoping this was going to come up.
Oh, I hope you have a good thought, because I don't really.
Hold on,
I do know it was the title of a Clone Wars episode that I think was about Gungans and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I think the only thing I wrote down was that he says, "You're a warrior now, just as I trained you to be." So I think, and there's a lot of talk of like, everything that you are is also everything that I am. I think in this scenario, Anakin as being her shadow warrior.
I think, well, like he is kind of a shade in this, like a spirit of some kind. So he is a shadow warrior, but also I like what you're saying that Ahsoka could be like his shadow. That could be how she sees herself.
Yeah. I think it could go either way. But I guess I took it as Anakin was here as the shadow warrior to put her on the correct path. That feels like a very like samurai thing for this to be a role for the Force Ghost of Anakin to do for Ahsoka.
I like this take. Haunted Autumn says the warrior in Ahsoka has cast a shadow over her life.
Someone said it was a Kurosawa film title. I don't know what was.
Huh? Shadow Warrior.
Oh, that was the name of a Kurosawa film?
Looks like it.
Oh, well, there you go.
I'm the Stein says, I think Shadow Warrior might also be like shadow boxing, so she's fighting herself.
Yeah. I think there's
lots of good takes there.
There's a lot of different ways to interpret it. And I think that goes for a lot of these titles and a lot of the fortune cookies for Clone Wars.
Yeah.
It's a nice title. It was unexpected, I think, for me. Aaron, thank you for the next super chat. Could Ezra eventually teach Jason? Seems appropriate for the father's Padawan to train the son. I think of everyone in this show, if anyone's going to be the one to teach Jason, I think it should be Ezra.
I think I agree. I think I'd like that. Ahsoka's going to be busy with Sabine. We don't know what state Ezra's going to be in, but I think eventually it would be nice for Ezra to pass on his father's legacy, or Jason's father's legacy, to his son.
Yeah.
Francisco Gios, thanks for the next one. Thrawn is the real threat. I agree, Alex. My take is that Ezra told the Purrgils to take this individual far, far away because he's dangerous. I think Cetos is going to be a big battlefield. Yeah, that's basically my take as well, that I think Thrawn is going to show up and lay waste to those 3 New Republic ships.
I would love to see it. I mean, I don't want to see all those people die, but Thrawn, like he said, he's got to come in swinging.
Yeah, we need to see him be big and scary instead of everyone just saying, "Oh, it would be bad if he came back."
Oh no, that would suck. We're like a little over an hour behind, so we're gonna try to pick up the pace here.
We're like an hour and a half behind.
Yeah. Scotty Heron, Hu Ying's eyes when describing Anakin as intense was everything to me.
It's like his bottom eyelids came up. Intense.
It's intense. I love that. Stormtrooper Gary, there's a bit of Anakin dialogue in one of the trailers that we haven't heard yet. Do you think this was cut, or do we think we'll see Anakin again before the season's over? We kind of touched on this, and I think it's probably dialogue that they recorded for the trailer.
I think it's a red herring.
That it's probably not something we haven't seen yet that we're going to.
I think Filoni didn't want to give away any of the actual lines, so he just had Hayden record something similar to Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Ice, thanks for another one. How funny would it be if after all the speculating about the Eye towing the Chimera back, they get to the other galaxy and Thrawn's just like, the Chimera? Oh, the Purrgil trashed that thing ages ago. Let's get out of here. It might be, but it's like, then I don't understand why they wouldn't just build a hyperspace, like just a normal ship. The fact that they built a ring makes me think they're gonna shove a Star Destroyer in that thing.
Yeah. They got precious cargo to bring back. Trevor Nesbitt, as for the time jumps, how about the reverse? Time moved normal in the new galaxy, but when they get back, it's been like 5 years as a way to age up Jason.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do any weird time stuff in that way.
I doubt it. We haven't heard any casting rumors of an older Jason.
I mean, we hadn't heard any the first word we got of Jason was from a Lego leak, so
that's true. And he didn't even have the green hair.
But I think they're not going to do anything weird with time like that.
And then this looks like it was from our earlier conversation from Calais. Maybe that's how he finds the Salamiri, like in the other galaxy. Yeah,
that maybe the Salamiri, Thrawn could get them there. I don't think they're going to do the Salamiri because Filoni he made a nod to them in Star Wars Rebels, but basically said that they weren't going to do that in Star Wars Rebels. So maybe he's changed his mind, but I'm not expecting it. Ice, thanks for the next two. Does her mention mean Leia has been involved in the search for Ezra, or is she just doing Hera a solid? She did meet Ezra, and they had a great rapport. Maybe they met again on Yavin and became friends, but I can see Leia wanting to help anyway, considering everything Ezra did for the rebellion. I could see her. I think her plate is probably full. She's got a lot going on, but I think she would be emotionally invested in trying to help Ezra and the people searching for him. So I think it's a little bit of both, doing a favor for Hera, but wanting Ezra to be found as well.
Yeah, I think she's probably got a soft spot for any missing Jedi. Yep. Miranda here. Thank you so much for the next one. I love that they used Battle of Ryloth because that was Ahsoka's first big failure in 119 Storm over Ryloth. Also, Hayden totally studied Lanter's work. I knew that was an episode.
I forgot that was Storm over Ryloth, though. I remember there being a big space battle and Ahsoka gets some clones killed and she feels terrible about it. But the fact that they connected it into Ryloth in this episode is good.
Yeah. And yeah, we've talked a lot about how Hayden Christensen has done a really good job channeling Matt Lanter.
Yeah. Lord Hosk, thank you. Are we keeping you from Purrgils or something?
Given the chance, would you get in a Purrgil's mouth and go to another galaxy?
Yes. If one just popped up right here, I'd be like, let's go. Let's go on an adventure.
No, we can't take the animals with
Why
us.
Why not?
Well, I didn't give that caveat. You were just like, yeah, I'll go. What are you taking with you?
You, Hilo, Pippin, we'll all go. We'll load up in the car and drive in to a whale's mouth and we'll take off.
What if there's no Amazon there?
Huh?
What if there's no Amazon there for me to order stuff from?
Well, you should stop that anyway.
I would have to take at least 2 bags.
It's a fresh start. You'll be fine.
The French Canadian Wolfman, thank you for the next super chat. I loved the episode, but man, I'm tired of seeing Anakin / Vader losing all the time. Annie beat Dooku for God's sake. I mean, I think he was hoping to lose this battle.
He was there to help Ahsoka. Like,
yeah. He's there to finish her training, which is not like, oh yeah, I'm gonna beat you down. Take that.
He was trying to push her into that moment where she can strike him down or not, and she rejected it. So, like, that wasn't a full-on life or death battle for him.
Nah.
Dean the Machine, thanks for the next question. Could Force Ghosts be more about the training of the live Jedi than the training of the past Jedi? Maybe more Sixth Sense than an ascension of a Jedi? Could the Force Ghosts be more about...
like training newer Jedi to be able to see them and connect to them instead of the dead Jedi becoming a ghost?
I think Force Ghosts training those, like helping finish the training of those that are still alive. Like,
oh, I see.
Like Obi-Wan and Yoda popped in to train with Leia and teach her some things every once in a while. I mean, I don't think the Force Ghosts, we've never seen a Force Ghost go into the past to reach out to anyone. I think they could, but that might just be terrifying for someone to see some ghost they've never met before.
Yeah, I mean, we see it a lot in Star Wars. We see these Jedi have their Force Ghost moment. So I think it happens more often than we think. I've always been a fan of like the so-called special training that it was foretold that you needed to be a Force Ghost is hogwash.
It seems like they're moving in that direction, that like maybe the first few had to do that, and now that the door has been opened, it's a little easier.
Yeah. Matt DuPont, thank you for the next super chat. Hey y'all, I've watched your videos since around The Last Jedi's release. Love your positivity and advocacy. Do you think we might see young Ahsoka again outside this show, given they cast Ariana Greenblatt? How do you say her last name?
I don't know. Greenblatt?
Greenblatt?
That's how I said it.
I don't think we'll see live action young Ahsoka again. I think that was like a
never ever.
Well, I guess not never, but like I think this was a special thing for her flashbacks.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it. I think anything is possible, but I'm not expecting it right now. Lightspeed Bear, thank you. Awe-inspiring episode, beautiful and serene. I thought the world between worlds scenes were perfect and didn't overstay their welcome. Carson, legend. Love Carson.
Legend, king.
Agreed. I don't think anything overstayed its welcome either. None of my concerns from last week were valid, and I'm happy about that.
Myriad Media Musings. Gotta love how Rebel Season 5 briefly became the Clone Wars Season 8, just like what happened before with Rebel Season 3 episode The Last Battle.
That's a good one. That's a good
That's
episode.
just a Filoni thing. He's
Yeah.
just going to insert his little stories wherever he wants.
Yeah, he likes to have them connected.
Yeah.
Neil Adamson, thank you for another one. I'd been lukewarm on Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera. She killed it in this episode. Totally felt Hera. Also, sad Hu Yang crushed me. Show MVP. Their little scene together was really nice. Hu Yang having that insight into Hera and who she is and how much she cares. I liked that.
And you could tell she really appreciated that coming from a very, very old droid. Like, he is wise. Wiser than any of these people.
He's like, I am the smartest one here. Look at my eyelids.
And I am not going to teach your son how to make a lightsaber. Not yet.
Not yet.
I also really love Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I've kind of loved her from the start. She just like captured the essence of Hera for me from the very beginning, and I think she's been killing it.
I think she's done a good job.
Lesmond de Gaunt, thank you so much for the next one. Did you notice at the beginning of the episode when Anakin was walking towards Ahsoka, every step his lightsaber hilt fluctuated between silver and black? Maybe I'm reading too much into it. What do you think?
I think that's building off of last week when people were wondering if that was Vader's lightsaber and not Anakin's. I think it was just weird lighting in that scene. It was going back and forth in between shadows of his cloak.
The way it was lit, the fact that there was like a slight layer of CGI over everything there, I think it was just hard to see.
Yep, I think it was just lighting. Lightspeed Bear, thanks for another one. As someone who isn't really a Clone Wars fan, Ahsoka herself didn't really mean all that much to me. Until now, this episode made me love the character. That's awesome. I've had an interesting and different journey with her too, where I didn't really know her until we saw her in Star Wars Rebels, and then I was like, I got to go back and watch all of the Clone Wars, and then got to really enjoy her.
Mm-hmm. I still prefer animated her, but the show's not. I mean, the show's just kind of getting started, and the only reason I prefer her animated is because she feels a little more happy-go-lucky. But again,
I think we might see that. Yeah,
we had to get her over that hump, and yeah, I hope we're headed in that direction. Harold, thank you for the next super chat. What are the chances that we'll see Alexander Kallus in Ahsoka? Is that his first name?
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever knew that. In Ahsoka, or if not, when will we see him in live action?
I'm thinking not in Ahsoka, with 3 episodes left and a decent chunk I think is going to take place in another galaxy. I don't think we're going to see him yet. I do think we'll see Zeb eventually in episode 7 or 8, but and where Zeb is, Kallus might not be far behind, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did eventually see him in live action. I'm just not expecting it to happen in the next few weeks.
Could be season 2, but I don't know. I would love for him to pop up somewhere.
Miranda here, thanks for another one. Another cue. How much of the Clone Wars do you think Hayden watched to study Matt? I'm sure he did some. I believe he said he watched all of it. I believe he was doing interviews before Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he said he watched all of the Clone Wars. Maybe he was just given a list of like must-see episodes for Anakin, but
I watched everything that they told me to watch.
Yeah, that's possible, but
I feel like that's more likely. But if he watched all of it, good for him.
I think he said he watched all of it, but I don't remember for sure. I would like to believe he watched all of it and had a blast.
I would love to have, whoever asked that question, they were like, you watched all however many episodes? And like they said the number, and he was like, oh, I didn't watch that many. I didn't know there was that many. Catherine O'Leary, thank you for the next super chat. Hayden's daughter, excuse me, Hayden's daughter's grandparents are my neighbors. I only ever see him on Halloween and would love to see him dress up as a Clone Wars Anakin when he comes over for trick-or-treating. Oh my god, can you
That'd
imagine?
be awesome if they let him keep the armor.
And he's just chasing kids down the street like,
oh no, oh no. Don't do that.
But it would be perfect for Halloween. I'm jealous. That's awesome.
I hope you see him this year. Ice, thank you for another super chat. I love that the mention of Kanan was saved until the first time we see Jason use the Force. That feels right to me. Really love how it meant something. I agree. Like, I've been impatient where it felt like they did have some moments to bring up Kanan, and everyone who's seen Rebels was like, why aren't they talking about Kanan? But to the casual audience, you need to spread this stuff out because they're going to act like Carson, where you're just like, oh, by the way, Jason's father was a Jedi in hiding and he's dead now. Just like, okay.
Okay. Anyways, back to my job, which is hard. I need a potty break.
Okay.
Do you need anything?
Are you getting something else?
Yeah.
Then yes.
Do you want another drink?
Sure.
Okay.
Edward First, thank you for another super chat, or a super chat. I want a young Ahsoka live action TV show with 10 seasons. That would be a lot. I don't know that I would want that. Like, I'm excited for stuff like The Acolyte to come out to keep expanding stuff, but people are loving Ahsoka, and if that would make you happy, and I think there's probably a market for it, so go for it. I would certainly watch it. 10 seasons is a lot, though. Darth Patty, thanks for being a Biggs mega fan, just says, hey all. Hey Darth Patty. Miranda here, thanks for another one. Reminds me of Tales of the Jedi episode 5 and how focused he worked to help train her to live. And I think that is where those lines from the trailer came from that we've talked about a couple times. I'm pretty sure he was reading something similar to what Anakin said in Tales of the Jedi, specifically episode 5. So it really does line up with just his desire to keep her safe, keep her alive, and the way to do that is to fight. John Booze, what's up? And thank you for the super chat. Loved annoyed teacher Anakin. Is that what this is about? Yeah, that was funny. Also, his quips about like teaching is not all it's cracked up to be. I liked those too. Scotty Heron, thank you for the super chat. Plot twist, next week's episode doesn't show the new galaxy at all. Instead, we have a buddy cop style adventure with Zeb, Callus, and AP5. Okay, hold on now. We've been talking about how for a while there was talks of an animated Rebels continuation. And, you know, if that came to be, it probably would have been more like The Bad Batch with 16 episodes or Star Wars Rebels with 22 or however many. And if Ahsoka did wind up being animated, I think we would have hit all the same story beats, but it would have been spread out. And, you know, like episode 4 would have been the mid-season finale where the villains get away with Sabine and like everything's feeling dour. But mixed in with all those episodes, there probably would be a Zeb, Callus, and AP5 buddy cop style adventure. Like we would have some side adventures, quote, filler, people would call it. But I kind of miss it, having just rewatched all of Rebels. I miss those little character focused stories where we get to take time to let things breathe. So I don't think that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be mad about it. Thank you. Kevin, thanks for the question. Will Zeb show up in Ahsoka? Is he CG or practical? He's definitely CG from what we saw of him in The Mandalorian. But if they made that character model, he's going to pop up. He'll be in Ahsoka, I think. I'll be shocked if he's not. Robert Bush, thank you for the question. When Ahsoka said, I won't fight you, Anakin replied, I've heard that before. I believe that's a reference to Luke refusing to fight him. Makes me believe this was the real Anakin. Your thoughts? I can't believe, I can't remember if we talked about this or not. I know you
We
brought it up,
did.
Mollie. Okay.
I brought it up like pretty early on the stream, but it was like that, and then his stuff from the Siege of Mandalore, where we were like, this feels like real Force Ghost Anakin rather than just Ahsoka's mind.
Right. Like, he has memories that Ahsoka doesn't, and he doesn't have memories that Ahsoka has. So that we're both leaning more towards it's really Anakin. But I don't think we can say it with 100% certainty.
Yeah. Bones McCoy, another Last Jedi connection. Octo vibes from the Hinge in this episode. Both places next to a vast ocean teeming with life makes sense for a Force connection. Yeah, I got a lot of Octo vibes from this, just like seeing the waves crashing on the shore. And
do you think there are birds underwater there? Because all the whales are in the sky, so they should have like fish birds to even things out.
They do on Camino, so I don't see why not.
It's true.
It's very Star Wars of them. Let's just switch these.
Whales
in the sky. Makes you wonder if Filoni is like doing some things recreationally.
Oh. He just lives his life upside down.
I'm just kidding. They're just like, how do we make this Star Wars? Swap the whales and the birds. Perfect.
Ice, thanks for another one. As for why Jason and Hera could hear the duel, I'm just going to put it up to we don't know everything about Cetos for now. It could have a stronger or different connection to the world between worlds than Lothal did. Yep. I mean, I think that's another aspect that makes me think this all really happened because Jason could sense it.
Mm-hmm. I'm loving Jason so far and all his little Force abilities.
All of them?
Well, he had his bad feeling when Sabine went away. I'm counting that. Anyways. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm good. It's your turn, though.
I know. I'm checking in with you.
I'm good. We can do this.
We can do this. We're not that far behind now. Haunted Autumn, thank you for the next one. Filoni brought Morai into live action in Mando. Morai was in The World Between Worlds when Ezra pulled Ahsoka out. Anakin having both light and dark in him, showing up in World Between Worlds. I think he might be the father now. He could be, but again, I just feel like they're not going to go into the Mortis gods in this show, at least not in where it's headed, like in this first season.
Yeah, I do think that it's very possible that we could head into that very big mythological thing eventually. I don't know when or where they would do it because it's a lot to introduce to people who haven't seen the Clone Wars, a lot to catch people up on, but there are pieces in place where I'm like, Anakin and Ahsoka, I think they could be avatars of the father and the daughter eventually. Mohammed Salman Farouz, thank you for the super chat. I don't see a message with it. I'll try to pop back up and look for one, though.
Christopher Killian, on an unrelated note, cool to know that Leia was covering for Hera with the New Republic and that they might still be friends after the incident with the Hammerhead ships. Yeah, I do think that's cool. And I don't expect to see Leia in this show at all, but I'm glad her name was brought up.
Yeah, that was a fun little tidbit to know she's on their side.
Yeah.
I found Muhammad's message. Thank you, Muhammad. I love Hayden's portrayal of Anakin and Ahsoka so much. I was eating while watching it yesterday, then tears started flowing.
Oh.
You can't eat and watch Star Wars. You'll cry. You'll make your food saltier. Just crying right into it.
No need for salt. Queersland, Australia. Sorry if this was asked. What do you think Hu Yang witnessed regarding Anakin? Does he know he was Vader? That intense quote has my curiosity.
I can't imagine he doesn't know, but I like to think that quote of like, oh, he was intense was from when he was like 11 and building his first lightsaber. Like,
yeah. He was a very intense 11-year-old.
He was a very intense child.
He kept using these weird pickup lines like, "Are you an angel?"
Yeah.
To me.
And you are Hu Yang. You are an angel.
He really is. I assume Hu Yang has been around long enough to hear about what happened to him, but I do think in that moment he was just referring to like him as a Jedi.
Yeah. But I think he knows the truth. I can't imagine Ahsoka wouldn't tell him.
Because he was very intense. I mean,
yeah.
That's why he
intense
turned to the dark side.
Covers a whole spectrum of his story. Hey, Podcast of the Wills. Tom Gillard, thank you for the next question. Is that first Clone Wars flashback from an actual Clone Wars episode? I don't think so. It seems like they kind of mashed some things together. I imagine it's part of the storm over Ryloth, Liberty on Ryloth, that arc. But those specific events we did not witness in the show, as far as I can recall.
I just assumed that it was, but apparently not. Not that simple. Edward First. What if Balin wants to use the world between worlds to go back in time and kill young Anakin before Obi-Wan meets him, baby Hitler style? Oh, choice of words. Well, we did kind of discuss Balin wanting access to the world between worlds, but would he use it to go back and kill Anakin? But then that would mean Anakin never lived. That would change a lot. Right?
I guess. I don't know. I just want to spend more time with Hilo. I have a trash can right next to my desk and he's putting his face in it.
Oh.
I just want to know more about his motivations. I wouldn't be all that surprised if he does want access to the world between worlds, but I guess that could line up with to create you have to destroy. Like if he wants to destroy Anakin, and he definitely knows about Anakin's past, so maybe. Power Rangers Explained. I think this is from when we were talking about the actress who plays Ahsoka, but the mom in it was Maya YR from PR Lost Galaxy, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. But Stuck in the Middle, I think, is the show he was talking about. But I have not seen that. Sky Forsland, thank you for the next one. This is the most full I've felt after a Star Wars episode. Hayden finally has a good script. I don't know, it's Star Wars perfection. Their argument about consequences was great, as was the music. Felt like old Ahsoka.
Fans were fed with this episode. We ate.
And yeah, I like that we're getting back to Ahsoka as we are more familiar with her.
Rook's Castle. Thank you for the super chat. I don't see a message here.
I'm scrolling up to see if I can find one.
Okie doke. In the meantime, I'll move on. Dean the Machine. Evidence is a bunch of dead guys and blowed up ships.
Mon Mothma wanting evidence for...
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they all saw that, but they're just like, oh, they just rescued Morgan, and they're not looking into it further.
They want Morgan in handcuffs. They want hard evidence of the Imperial remnant and Thrawn, and they're just not listening.
Yeah. I found Rook's Castle's message. When do you think Ezra will appear? I'm betting the final scene of the final episode before Fade to Black. I think it'll happen before that.
I'm starting to feel like we'll get Thrawn before we get Ezra. So I think maybe we'll get Thrawn in the next episode, and then we won't get Ezra until the finale. But
I agree with you. I think we'll do Thrawn then Ezra, but I think we'll see him like at the end of episode 7 or something. I don't think it'll be right before it ends. I don't think it'll be the final scene. But
Dan Ritter, what's up?
Hey, Dan.
Joining super late tonight. Still floating from how amazing that episode was. Some will cry fan service, but whoa, that was a blast. Loved every minute. Made me want to rewatch Clone Wars. It really was a blast to watch. I rewatched it before we started the stream. And I always appreciate things more on a rewatch. So I'm glad I did that.
I've seen it 3 times in the past 24 hours.
Alex was like, I'm done.
No, I didn't get tired of it. And yeah, some people just think that having familiar characters in something, whether or not they're servicing the story, it's like, oh, it's just fan service. Like, no, it's not.
It's just another one of those buzzwords that people hear and see around the internet, and so they think they know what it means, and they're just going to use it as an excuse for everything. And it's like, that's not what that means. It's like filler.
Yeah. Trevor Nesbitt, thanks for another one. Tinfoil hat time. Balin uses the temple remains to go to the world between worlds to kill Anakin, but fails, leaving only a scar on his face.
I got my fake hat on.
Hold on. I don't have them up. I had the tinfoil hats up somewhere.
That's okay. I figured you didn't have them.
That would be funny. Now that I think would be kind of fan service, but it would be funny to finally figure out how Anakin got the scar.
It was Balin all along.
It was Balin.
That's why Anakin doesn't remember him. And he remembers Anakin. The real Doomslayer, Hera admitted to having no proof, but what about Hu Ying's scan of the hyperspace ring? Seems like solid evidence to me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure the New Republic would just make up some reason to do nothing. But
they want it feels like they want actual Morgan in handcuffs. They want actual Thrawn appearance.
Like they want Thrawn,
they want hard evidence.
They want things to be so bad they can't ignore it, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
Josh Mansfield, thank you for the next one. Praying you feel better. Thank you. P.S. Back subbed on Patreon. Thank you again. I am feeling much better than I was yesterday, so that's good. I'm feeling good enough for a beer.
A second beer at that. And thanks for being on Patreon.
Yeah.
Guys, if you haven't checked out our Patreon, it's got some cool stuff over there. That's where all of our reactions go. So for $2 or $5 a month, depending on where, if you want the edited or unedited reactions, they're over there. We don't put them out publicly because our reactions are not as exciting as reactors' reactions. Like, that's not our meat and potatoes. But
also, I don't want our channel to just be like that face all over the place.
Yeah. We're just trying to enjoy Star Wars.
Yeah. Lynn Koyo, thank you for the next one. I think World Between Worlds is like a Force hub. We've seen Yoda connecting with Ezra, Palpatine reaching it using Sith magic, and now Anakin contacting Ahsoka. It feels like a physical manifestation of the Force in a comprehensible manner. Yeah, I think it is. A hub is a good way to put it. I think it's kind of a manifested version of the cosmic force outside of space and time.
Yeah. I like that. Force hub. Ice, thanks for the next one. Wouldn't the ships have something of the Eye of Sion, a scan, dash cam footage, something? I hope Hu Yang gave them the scan he did. Kind of worried that it'll be forgotten about next week, but we'll cross that if we get there. Yeah, we just talked about that. I think they're just ignoring it unless it's a literal picture of Thrawn, like giving everyone the finger. And they're like, well, we can't ignore that.
Yeah. That's too far, Thrawn. Vex431, thanks for the next super chat. I loved Hayden's chemistry with Ariana. It would be cool if Tales of the Jedi incorporated live action episodes with animation so we can see them again. I don't think they will.
That would be insanely more expensive, but
Well, Filoni just said that the reason he did Tales of the Jedi was because he was missing doing animation.
Yeah.
So I think that's his animation project.
Andrew 711, do you think they have
alien insurance?
Alien insurance in Star Wars?
That looks like a space invader.
Oh, so like if people from other galaxies come, I don't think they have insurance for that.
Maybe it's a whale. Maybe they're asking about whale insurance.
Mm. Yuzon Vong insurance. Let's hope not.
Mace Harris, thanks for the next one. Is Ahsoka rising to the level of a Force wielder from Force user, and what is the difference? Thanks, Alex and Molly. Love all you do.
Ooh.
So the Force wielders are like the Mortis gods. I don't think she is on that level of like Force godliness yet.
I don't even think Anakin is, unless proven otherwise.
Anakin maybe, now that he, like, the chosen one is one with the Force and all that. But even then, like, I don't know if that's the direction that story is going to go, that they're going to replace the Mortis gods.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, they could, but I don't know that they'll do it in this season.
Or this series. I think I don't know where they would tell that story, because it's a weird story to tell.
Mm. But we love weird Star Wars, so. If you want to,
I am looking right now.
If there's a message from
yes, they sent in another super chat here. Can we just take a minute to appreciate how adorable that moment between Hu Yang and Jason was? Jason was so excited, and Hu Yang was just like, no.
That was really cute. Can you teach me how to build a lightsaber? No.
No. I assume Hera has laid some ground rules with Hu Yang.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Ash DZ, great episode. If you guys will be at Wicket in Atlanta for opening night Friday, can we please take a group selfie? Thanks for the awesome content every week.
Sorry, we're probably not going to be there. I did get tickets for it, but then I got sick. So I don't think we're making it out on Friday.
Boo! I'll go.
You can go. You're not sick.
Nah, I should probably stay home and take care of you. We'll go with our friends next week.
But you should go enjoy Wicket if you're in Atlanta, because it's awesome.
Yes. Ice, thanks for the next one. My take on Ahsoka's experience. She was in a sort of limbo and was spiritually transported there, where she met Anakin's spirit, and Balin's taunt about her legacy opened her up to seeing Anakin where she was closed off before. Yep.
I'm reading it again. She was in a sort of limbo and was spiritually transported there. Yeah. I still think it did really happen, but I think that's how she was transported there. Trevor Nesbitt, thanks for another one. Another tinfoil hat. Ezra has a whole new order in the new galaxy called the Bendu Order.
Ooh.
I think he's just been locked up. That's my guess for him right now. I think he's been locked up with Thrawn for 10 years.
I like Jake's idea that he's off on an island and has his own Wilson and stuff. The Wilson thing was my idea, but like if you were just like found a way to escape but was hiding elsewhere. He comes back all crazy and wild. like the Bendu. Catherine O'Leary, I would love to see Hayden dressed up in his Clone Wars costume for Halloween. His daughter's grandparents are my neighbors. Oh, okay. Sorry, we got really behind on these, so we're trying to catch up.
Yeah, but I hope you see it. Lord Hosk, why is the New Republic pissed at Hera? The ghost is hers. Well, I mean, she's part of an official government military. It's a little different from when they were a rebellion, and Han could kind of come and go as he pleased. But she also did take a squadron of X-Wings with her. The ghost might fall under their jurisdiction. I don't know.
I did think it was odd that the New Republic was so, like, you guys have to come back here right now. I was like, give them a break.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
The story needs it, so I'll give it a pass. Ice, the choreography with Hayden feels like it was lifted right out of Revenge of the Sith. I swear I did the DiCaprio pointing meme anytime I saw him do a signature spin. I definitely made a note of that in her reaction. I was like,
Yeah.
he did the thing.
The behind the back twirl with the lightsaber is very fun.
It's so over the top, but needed.
Very dramatic. Haunted Autumn, thanks for the next one. Intelligent, deliberately vague references to Star Wars lore, real-world history, culture, and myths, all allowing for multiple interpretations and endless speculation. Ahsoka is Star Wars at its best. It is a combination of all those things. And I like that they left so much to audience interpretation, and they didn't really set... I don't think they had to set a bunch of stuff in stone, especially with the World Between Worlds, so I'm happy to debate it.
Yeah. Sky Forsland with another super chat. Even though I try to stay on top of Star Wars shows as much as I can't always, and some in this community make me feel lesser because of it. Validate me, please. Well, I hope we don't. But
no, you don't have to keep on top of everything, because it's hard to do that.
It's literally a full-time job, and
it's our job, and it's still hard.
Even I can't keep up with all of it.
I can barely keep up with all of it, so consider yourself validated.
And I know that a lot of people feel like it's a completionist thing, like you need to keep up with all of it, but I've given that up a long time ago, and I really think you don't have to consume all of it to be able to appreciate all of it.
Yeah, just take what you like. If you think you'll be into something, watch it. If you don't think it's for you, don't watch it. It's fine.
It's all good.
Dean the Machine, thank you for the next one. Sorry, to clarify, like Obi-Wan's training was so he could talk to Qui-Gon's spirit, and not that he could become a ghost to haunt Luke himself. Okay.
Oh.
So, well, my understanding from the Clone Wars is that Qui-Gon and Yoda had to go through specific training to keep their consciousness beyond death. I think that's what the Force Priestesses laid out. But Obi-Wan definitely did have to learn to open himself back up to the Force so that he could communicate with Qui-Gon. Like, Qui-Gon straight up tells him, I've been here the whole time. You just weren't ready to see me. So I think there's an element of that too.
Thanks for your clarification, though. Appreciate that. I don't know if we covered this already, but Edward First, thanks for becoming a Biggs mega fan.
And Swole Yoda, thank you for the advice. Tea with honey, NyQuil, and a shot of whiskey.
I almost went for the bourbon. I might still do that after we're done with the show. And I was like, oh, I could make Alex a tea with honey and lemon, but I was like, I don't have time.
There's no time.
There's no time.
We'll make one after. That does sound good.
Ice loved the banner between Anakin and Ahsoka. Felt like it was right out of the Clone Wars. All the little quips and jokes between them. Snips and Sky Guy back again. I agree. I still felt like the dialogue was a little clunky, but overall they got the point across. And
I think the only clunky part I remember is when he asks her, like, would you prefer I be more serious? And she's like, I don't know. And then he's like, tell me what you want. Do you want me to be more serious? And she's like, I'd prefer it. And I'm like, that just seemed like a weird interaction to me. But for the most part, the banter, I loved it. I thought that they did it well. The Anakin, you look the same. You look old.
You look old.
Yeah.
That was a very Anakin line.
Travis Griffin, thank you for the next one. The Bannister effect could be used to help explain how it's easier for more and more people to be Force ghosts. I don't know what that is.
I don't either.
Oh, wait. Actually, I think I might. Is that? Yeah. That's the person who ran a 4-minute mile for the first time. And people just thought that was not physically possible for a human to do. But once Bannister did it, what was his full name? Roger Bannister did it, and then lots of people started doing it once they knew it was possible.
Wow.
I can
Not
see
possible for me. I mean, yes, but I choose not to. Jared Pearden, thank you so much for the super chat. Love you guys. Hope to meet y'all one day. Thanks. Hope to meet you too.
Maybe in Tokyo. We haven't decided if we're going yet or not, but
still a ways away, but gosh, that would be super awesome to go do.
Yeah. Ice, thanks for the next couple. I really loved Anakin's demeanor at first. He felt so zen and masterful, which was perfect for where he is, back on the light side, helping Ahsoka. And I loved the flashbacks as well. We got the Jedi armor in live action, again, perfectly done by Hayden. Ariana Greenblatt was great as young Ahsoka. If I had one nitpick, it would be I wish they had shown Ahsoka's growth from the first flashback to the Siege of Mandalore. Don't think they should have had a different actress when she was crushing it. Maybe lengthen the Leku a bit since 3 years passed, but I'm not bothered. She did amazing. Loved the effects of the sabers and silhouettes in the fog.
I think they did lengthen them a little, but I guess if you wanted more.
She looked basically the same to me, which, it's a tiny nitpick, but it's something I noticed as well.
I guess the outfit just stood out to me that was different.
When Anakin advanced on Ahsoka and flashed to Vader, genuinely terrified me. What a great visual. The ending of the duel was phenomenal with the brief flash of her Sith eyes and his last words to her.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that moment too. And that like shrug he does as he's stomping towards her.
So scary. Darth Nicholas, thanks for the next one. We're going to get ready to wrap up here pretty soon. I got to put Alex to bed.
Give me my bourbon.
Why do you think George Lucas resorted to CGI clone troopers in the prequels and not live ones? Was it cost-cutting measure? Would you have preferred them being live in the prequels like me? Well, George was very excited to do all the CGI things, so I bet that was like his goal and he wanted to do that.
Yeah, I think he probably viewed it as a challenge. I know there is discussion of it. I don't know his words off the top of my head, but I think since they're all clones and since they can all just be identical, he probably figured that was something easier to do and a good test for computers, because he was always interested in pushing technology forward as much as he was telling a Star Wars story. Like he kind of viewed Star Wars as a way to push the envelope. So that would be my guess, but I can't recall his exact reasoning.
Yeah, I don't think resorted would be the word to use there. I think that was intentional.
Yeah. I don't think it was a cost-cutting measure. I'm not sure about it, but I do think it should have been just people in armor. I think that would have felt more real. So
back
many
then,
of them.
it was pretty impressive, but now we see stuff like that and we're like, ugh, this again.
It's still impressive, I think, but just the fact that so much of the film was done on like green screen and the actors didn't have much to work with, and the fact that the clones are also not real, it's a lot. It's a lot to ask of your actors.
True. A lot of extras that you have to pay.
Star Orange 36. Thank you for the next question. Do you think, like Obi-Wan, she will now be able to see Anakin's Force ghost whenever? It's possible he'll pop back up. I kind of think we're probably done with Anakin in this season.
Yeah, I would love for them to meet again, but I feel like it might be a while. Like, not till the very end of the show, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Game Station 26, thank you for the super chat. Did they not have the budget or time to properly de-age Hayden in the Obi-Wan series like they did in the latest Ahsoka episode? I mean, they filmed the Obi-Wan series during COVID, and I think they had a much less significant budget. So maybe.
I think it was a budget issue because I think getting Ewan McGregor, especially for an entire series or season, I think that was probably a big tick on their budget. And it may have been a time issue as well. I'm not sure how that all worked, but it's clear that they can do it in Ahsoka. But I also think that we see where they not cut corners, but they masked everything with fog and stuff. I think that was a budget issue as well, which I think is a fine trade-off, but I'm going to assume it's a budget issue for the Obi-Wan series.
I think so too. I'm going to go ahead and read this one since Ice has the last two. My bud who hasn't watched the animated stuff texted me, whoa, she's had a lot of lightsabers. That's true. Also, over-under on seeing Rex and Zeb. She has had a lot of lightsabers, and we got to see just about all of them.
Well, the green ones were turned into blue ones.
One green one, and then we saw the blue ones.
Yeah, but the blue ones are the green ones. It's just that
Sure.
Anakin tinkered with them, and then she has the white ones.
It just feels like
it is a lot. Zeb,
over-under on Rex and Zeb.
I'm going like 90% on Zeb.
We did already see Rex. I think that might be all we see.
Yeah, I think that we might see Rex in live action down the road, but
I hope so.
I think we're running out of room in this series.
Yeah. I'd love to see Rex more in Ahsoka because their relationship is so cute, but I don't know that we are going to get it.
Yeah. And Ice, thank you for the last two here. We got Ahsoka the White. I never watched Lord of the Rings, so all the Gandalf references are largely lost on me, but now I get it, and I love that journey for her. You should watch Lord of the Rings. It's awesome. Or read it. Excellent storytelling. Took me a bit to realize she was wearing the white cloak after she was saved, and it wasn't a hospital covering. A+ costume design. Didn't hit me fully until she went out on the wing. Loved that bit. Yeah, the full costume reveal was great out on the wing and everything.
It was so dramatic, and the fact that they did it in stages. Yeah, she had like the white shawl on at first when she was still recovering, and then she had that like big hero moment out on the wing of the ship in the full decked out new costume, new headband too. I pointed out earlier that the headband and her belt both have circles on them, so I'm hoping she gets the staff by the end of the show that has the little circle on it.
I think she will, yeah.
So
Hilo. Hilo just bonked my desk and it took my camera off for a second.
Well, Hilo knows what time it is. It's time for us to leave the stream. Not go to bed.
Time to wrap up. I'm probably going to go to bed.
Soon go to bed. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for 3.5 hours. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn Koyo.
This is my get well soon card for Alex. Yes, let's put Alex to bed so that he can rest up and get better so that we can do stuff this weekend.
Honestly, all things considered, I'm feeling pretty good.
But thank you so much to everyone who sent in super chats. I know we get really behind on these streams because we get so caught up in talking about all your awesome questions, but Thanks for sticking it out with us. And yeah, we'll see you guys at the next one.
Good night. And thank you, Hot and Autumn.
Thanks, On and Autumn.